Yo, what's up? I'm here. And I'm here early. The starting soon screen last time was very long. By the way, I wasn't around yesterday. I was busy. Were the servers getting DDoSed again? W hopeful. Max, did your tweet ruffle any feathers? What tweet? Did I tweet? What'd I say? Max, why are you streaming Rest Your Noggin? Yo, Lizzie, I haven't had any symptoms for like 4 days. 5 days? But also it's my job. I gotta do it. You know what I mean? I don't get nauseous or feel weird or anything. I have been resting though. I haven't played any hockey. My brain damage is it's going back to normal kind of. Max, do you play in a contact league? No, all men's league. Well, not all men's league, but like 99% of men's league is no contact, but it's pretty high level men's league. And whenever that happens, everyone grew up playing hockey in contact leagues, or people used to play juniors or pro. So I mean, like, no one's gonna like lay you out, but I mean, there's contact. Like there's contact in front of the net, there's contact in the corners, but that's all like fine, if that makes sense. But me getting a concussion wasn't from like a big hit or anything. I just caught a high stick from a full follow through and then snapped my head back. Max, do you see yourself playing any guys this season? In past seasons, this is where you'd start gearing up. I've been thinking about it. I kind of do. I would say a pretty big um um sorry, I was reading a message. I got totally fucking sidetracked. What did I just read? Oh, sorry. The playing a character, the big fallback was I was like playing characters a couple weeks after the race, and then it felt like I could never catch up. But they made the Valor situation, or I guess whatever they're called, the Crest situation, like way easier. But I'd still have to like get geared. Also, there's not like a slam dunk character I would play. Like Windwalker's awesome in raid, but like most of the time, if I'm ever playing WoW, I'm not like raiding. I'm Mythic plussing for fun. So, um, Mythic Windwalker isn't good in Mythic Plus because of target count, but I mean, I'm sure it'd be like fine, if I just wanted to do it for fun. Slam out Faith Father and thank me later. Is Red actually good? Red looks pretty fun. Everything's playable. Max, when you're progressing in WoW raids and there's one person that's consistently underperforming, how do you handle that? I don't know. Try to put them in a position to succeed or replace them if you care about performance. But if they're a good vibe and you don't care about performance, then like deal with it. Have fun. Unholy DK is cranking. Definitely not feeling Unholy DK. If anything, I'm just going to play Windwalker for sure. Windwalker sounds really fun. Ret sounds really fun. But I also just don't see myself playing a ton of WoW. I just have like a lot of other stuff going on. Max, just wanted to let you know that the servers shit the bed earlier today as well. Yeah, the DDoSing is probably it's probably aimed at the race or OnlyFans as well. Play League with Pobelter. Max needs to join near airport. Dude, I haven't seen Eugene in forever. We had lunch like a couple months ago, I think, and we went shopping in a mall together. Not even making that up. um, but yeah, I haven't seen him in forever. He was gonna play WoW with us, and then he didn't. And then I've never played League with him. I'm not gonna lie to you guys though. I don't have any desire to play League of Legends. I've never really got into it. I don't really see the reason. Max, do you ever think you'd play Final Fantasy again? Those streams are really fun. I would raid in Final Fantasy, with like a group of friends or something. But I wouldn't stream it. I would do it off stream. I had like a really, really weird interaction with their community while streaming it. Also, I would use like hella add-ons in that game, and that's what I did the last time I streamed it, and that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. But also, they've become a lot more strict about their policing of that, so I'd probably get banned if I did that. I mean, I know I'd have a million people report me, and I don't want to play that game with default UI, so I'd get like extra fucked. But I would play the game though. It's a fun game. Max, I am having a baby girl tomorrow. Oh shit. Good luck. Good luck. That's a big, big life moment. You know what's crazy about having kids is, like, when you hear people who've had kids say the second you have a baby, it changes your life forever. Like your entire life has been about you. And then as soon as the baby gets born, it's like everything about that is wrong. And it's all about this baby. And it sounds like so unrelatable and like made up, but I'm positive that they're right. Like I completely believe that that happens, and you just can't experience that until you have a kid. But it just sounds like so ridiculous, but I bet it's true. So I hope you have that feeling, or maybe you already have a kid. I don't know. It doesn't happen for everyone. Some people are just bad parents. Yeah, that's true. I think it also matters when you have a kid in your life. Like, not everyone. What is this conversation right now, by the way? But like, not everyone has a kid at a time that's like ideal, right? Like, they've got their life figured out. They're financially stable. You know, they're with someone that they're actually going to stay with. You know, I don't want to make up percentages, but like a decent percentage of people who are having kids are not in that situation, and that could lead to a lot of stress and it being a bad idea and it being a negative interaction. Have you guys ever had a pregnancy scare, by the way? Like either as a guy or a girl? So like you're a girl with a pregnancy scare, or you're a guy who's had a girlfriend or someone they were sleeping with be like, I might be pregnant, but then it didn't happen? Bro, that is I've had that happen to me twice. Not a long time though. These are like both almost 10 years ago, but holy shit. I think that might have been the most freaked out I've ever been in my life. Like I'm very confident I've never been as like stressed out as when I thought I might have been having a kid in my 20s on accident. And dude, the feeling both times of them being like, I started my period. Oh, holy fucking dude. Like throw your hat up like you just graduated, kind of happy. How do raider contracts work, and can people leave at any time? Yeah, yeah, of course. If anyone wants to leave, if we want to terminate them, or they want to leave the guild at any point, that's all fine. There's been some stories of like WoW guilds having like non-competes and some weird language in there to kind of scare you. We don't have any of that stuff. You're free to go at any time. I think some of that weird language in other guilds' contracts is also specifically surrounding going like I know there's another guild out there that has in their contract like, you know, you're not allowed to like leave right before a raid and go to a competitor. So I think the reasoning behind that is like, you know, you'd be going and telling them all of our strats for the tier, which is like potentially a big problem and kind of fucked up, you know. But I don't think most of that stuff is enforceable. There was one guild that like every single time we tried to recruit from them, they wouldn't give us their logs. And it was so annoying. Like basically someone would reach out from this guild and be like, "Hey, I want to join." And we're like, "Okay, let's see your logs." And obviously all these guilds private log. But like, you know, usually you can get people to just give you their account information and just go look at their logs to evaluate them as a player. There's no other way you can recruit them, right? It's required. So dude, they would for like 2 tiers in a row, we almost recruited a couple people from this guild, and every single time we couldn't because they just wouldn't give us our logs, and that's unheard of. It never happens, which means there must be some kind of threat made to them where they're like, if you give up log access, we will like fucking kill you. Because I've never heard of that being an issue with anyone else. Would love to see how a non-compete would hold up in court for a video game. Well, okay, so obviously it wouldn't. Not to mention they're literally illegal in some places. But in the places where they're not illegal, them holding up in court, the point is not for them to hold up in court ever, really. The point is to scare you into not doing something. Because most people don't. You know, if you don't know a lot about the law and you see in your something you signed that like you're not allowed to do something, you don't want to fuck with that, you know? It's just a scare tactic. All right, let's go live. Fuck it, why not, right? I mean, let's just fucking go live. I could do that. I could easily do that. Doing my job. Here I am. Max, I would like to see you review the latest couple of Final Fantasy XIV jobs that you missed and see if WoW can steal any ideas. What has come out since I stopped playing Final Fantasy? I played Reaper. So everything that's come out since Reaper. This is like Pictomancer. I saw some tuning chart of like Pictomancer being like absolutely goated at some point. I mean, to be honest, man, do you mean like WoW classes? I think like aesthetically, WoW wouldn't take anything from Final Fantasy because the JRPG like class design thing is just really, really different than WoW. So I don't think that would really work unless you mean gameplay wise. And I don't think that like don't take this the wrong way, but like Final Fantasy jobs are a lot more simple in the way that they play, especially DPS. Not all of them are just like straight up zero proc. You just press things in an order, but a lot of them are. They're also really fun, by the way. I do not mean this for like they're bad. Like I've had Final Fantasy is a great, really fun game to play, but the classes are like kind of like single target. So like WoW classes are so varied in like the way they do damage to like AoE, to cleave, and those are all so different than other classes. Like if you're cleaving as a Shadow Priest, that feels totally different than it does like a melee, you know, like it's just, or even other ranged, like other range, the way that other range do AoE is just so different, or a single target, right? Dot classes, upfront burst damage, like it's all very different. A lot of times, like actually the newer Final Fantasy classes feel closer to like WoW classes actually, and these aren't newer, but like some of the more in-depth ones, like Black Mage, for example. When you see WoW casters play Final Fantasy, they almost always play Black Mage because it's one of the only classes that like feels like a WoW caster kinda in the way that it works. Same thing with like you just need things with procs. Like the thing that WoW does well for a really long time is procs. Like if you hit a dummy for 5 minutes, you could do that 100 times and it would never feel the same. There's always like just the concept of something procking in your rotation, a big button that matters procking at different times and playing around it is something that WoW does really, really well. It works really differently for a lot of different classes. and it's just like something that's so fun versus like there's a few, and I would say the majority of Final Fantasy specs, if you were to go hit a dummy for 5 minutes, there is a theoretical correct rotation that you could repeat every single time. Now, some of those classes do have procs, but most of them don't. And they are kind of built like that. And I think procs are just goated. Like if you were to remove... Bro, can you imagine how much worse rotations would be on WoW classes if procs didn't exist and it was just pressing the right things in the right order? Like, that would... I mean, monumentally worse. But it's still really fun to play that game, though. He doesn't know about the Black Mage rework? Well, yeah, I don't know anything about... I know almost nothing about that game. So we've made a few additions to our guild. I don't know how many of them are public yet. So I know the hopeful one is, and a lot of people reacted to the hopeful one, but the real stream heads knew about hopeful before it got announced. He got invited to our Discord the day before when we were streaming to a lot of people, and we were all like talking about it. I mean, if they have the rank in the Discord, that's basically public. Yeah, true. And I mean, I wouldn't be... Basically, the reason I wouldn't want to say it is I wouldn't want to spoil the, like, announcement tweet or whatever, which usually gets a lot of attention. But, like, Hopeful was literally announced before he officially announced it, and it still got, like, hella attention. So, like, clearly a lot of people just aren't tuned into the streams and pay attention to Twitter and stuff. Or YouTube. So, I think... Well, I don't know who is, like, official, but... So we have not lost anyone yet. Well, we have lost, I guess, so Rivens is no longer in the guild. And we haven't done a lot of our like post-raid meetings, but I'm pretty sure we're keeping almost everyone or everyone. Why? It's not important. He's no longer in the guild. And we lost Kingfly as well. Kingfly, long time, huge fucking gamer. I think Kingfly was the like 3rd or 4th most tenured raider. But yeah, I think he just, you know, he's killed a lot of world first end bosses for us, but, and I haven't actually so I won't speak for him actually, but I feel like he's been just doing this for a long time, and when you put in all the effort and then you don't get to play much, like he was our 2nd hunter this tier, which was like so close to being in on every boss before the raid, but it just got nerfed enough to where you really only did that a couple of times. You know, he killed Sprocketmonger, right? Really hard boss. But like you just didn't want to play 2 hunters outside of that. But he also has played like Shadow Priest for us. He's played Warlock for us. He's like a huge ranged multi-classer, really sick player and with a ton of experience. Yeah, if you guys remember Philandris, he was the new gate. Like he's played like basically everything. And that's like the unfortunate part of the race is like to cover all the classes you need to have 30 players, but only 20 can be in at a time. And then certain tiers you can be in all the time for years, like Atlas, and then like they make a tier where you can't play a DPS DK, and then you know that just happens. So yeah, the sucks to see Kingfly go for sure. Yeah, so Kingfly and Rivens are out. So I guess I could do like a little notepad of it. Let's see. Did I have so many open notepad tabs? Who do we got? So out is Rivens and Kingfly, who's being added. So I believe with Rivens and Kingfly, we're actually down to 27 players. And typically you want 30 or 31. That's the ideal number. So the people that are added are Hopeful. We've added a Shine from Fat Shark Yes. Longtime MDI player. Longtime Fat Shark Yes raider. Plays a bunch of stuff. I have never actually spoken with a Shine yet, but I've been told he's very smart. I know Scott and Zevi and Impec and Wolf have all played with him in Fat Shark Yes at some point, and I think he's also done MDI with a few of our players as well. At different points. I could be making that up. I don't actually remember, but yeah, just really smart player. I don't know exactly what he's going to cover for us right now. I know Hopeful's going to be multi-classing a bit. Potentially. Like, obviously, if we need to run a bunch of mages, Hopeful will play mage, but, like, you know, definitely going to have to multi-class. I mean, we have, like, bro, we have insane amounts of mages right now. Like, like, bro, if there's, like, a 5 mage tier, we're going to win by a week. It's fucking insane. Like Cine, Dranaco, KSB, Fired Up, and Hopeful. Like, every single one of those players is fucking crazy. And all of them can multi-class as well. So that's good. We have also added back JPC the Man. He's going to be multi-classing a bit as well. I think his characters are something like... I want to say it's Rogue, Enhanced Shaman, maybe Warrior, maybe a little DK. Just melee multi-class guy. And then I believe there is one more person. One more person. Someone else joining as well. But I don't think that's official and hasn't been added yet, so I won't talk about it. But there's someone else as well. Someone will be rejoining that has been in the guild in the past for the upcoming raid. Max, are you guys expecting this raid turnaround to be pretty quick? So in Dragonflight, the raids were about 5 months apart each. I think Amirdrasil was like a little delayed by like a few weeks because of BlizzCon. If you remember, it would have came out like right before BlizzCon, but obviously they wanted to do BlizzCon first. So if you look at like the 3 Dragonflight raids, it was like 5 to 6 months, 5 to 6 months, 5 to 6 months. Nerebar Palace was 5 to 6 months before this raid. So I imagine the next raid will probably be 5 to 6 months from that one. I think that just makes sense. There's no like events they would have to move it around or anything. So, like, or at least BlizzCon related. So I think so, yeah. I have a theory for next tier, by the way. I think they're gonna make next tier unbelievably hard. Now, I think you guys are going to immediately be like, that's not a hot take. Like, everyone thinks that. Gallywix was a disappointment for them. They missed really big. You know, so, like, of course they're going to make the raid crazy hard. It's going to be a snapback. They always historically do big reactive changes based on what just happened. Okay, all of that's true. But for another reason. So, let me go to Wowhead real quick. Oh, it opened 2 Firefoxes? Okay. What? The fuck's wrong with my Firefox? It's not even doing anything. Open it again. It bugged out. Bugged out bad. It's also an end of expansion raid. That doesn't really matter. Let's see. Max, how many pulls over the full raid did you think the new swirly saved? I don't know. I could make something up. But I mean, I don't know. That's just how I don't know. Here we go. Where are the most recent nerfs? Wait, here we go. Only 30 guilds have killed Mythic One-Armed Bandit in 21 days. Hardest 6th boss ever made. I mean, I feel like we hard baited people, because when we killed One-Armed Bandit, I told people, like, people were like, oh, this boss is so easy. I'm like, guys, we did it in week 2 gear. That's why the check was easy, but this boss is not easy. I think we absolutely smurfed. Like, We played super fucking insane on this fight. Like our strat was insane and our players played so good. Yeah, I don't know. This boss has been fucking destroying guilds. It's so hard. What the fuck is that? Why am I getting a Microsoft Teams notification? Is there new notification settings or something? Play sounds and notification. Yep, nope, never. Never do that. Mute all notifications. Yes. Bro, you scared me. I'm sorry, guys. It's not my fault. I did a Windows update and it has now changed my notification settings for some reason. All right. It's all fixed. Sorry, boys. And it's been 21 days since the start of the race, and shockingly small number of guilds have killed the 6th boss of the raid. As of March 25th, only 30 guilds have killed Mythic One-Armed Bandit, currently marking it as the hardest 6th boss in recent history. There's been 21 full days since the raid release, we've compiled these numbers of the kills for the past 2 raids. The liberation of Undermined One-Armed Bandit, 30 kill. Oh, so 21 days after Mythic releases, here are the kill numbers. I mean, that's kind of insane. Okay, to be fair, though, I think Kaiveza was massively nerfed before, like, the full week before this timestamp that they've done. But also, like, I feel like One-Armed Bandit... Yeah, THD's right. Like, One-Armed Bandit is also a product of Styx and Sprocket being that hard, but that's not true this week. Like, I feel like they made... I mean, Sprocket is absolutely nothing compared to what it was. Styx is still kind of hard, though, just because of the nature of the fight. Here's why Styx is hard. Because you can nerf the boss a lot, but it's always going to be hard for this reason. And there has been a few fights like this, and it's actually one of the best bosses ever for VOD review. So this is, if you guys wonder why we VOD review in the Race World first, and you're wondering if you could ever add that to your own guild's progression, Styx is the perfect boss. Because it's going to take you 30 or 40 pulls to kill Styx minimum, basically, and it's because it's going to take that much time for basically everyone who's going to get the junk ball to get it and learn how to do it. You can watch a video of it, you just kind of need to learn the priorities of everything. You need to instantly go for hyenas. You need to be able to communicate who's getting bombs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just need, that's how many pulls it takes for people to get it in an average amount of time for you to be proficient at it, and then you're not really killing it before that point. So VOD, it's the same on Heroic, though. It isn't. So on Heroic, you basically just have to get large and a couple of you go into the bomb and then a couple of you go into the boss. On Mythic, you still want to get hyenas, that's true, but you instantly have a 10-second timer to where you have to get Scrap Masters, and if anyone doesn't do that, which I've seen very good players, like people in my guild know exactly how to do it, and it take them a couple of times until they're good at it. It's really hard. They made it a little longer, but like it's still like even just separating yourself and knowing which one to get just takes some practice. And then on top of that, later you have to like clear stuff, and the bomb bots are still like it's pretty easy to run into the bomb bots, even though they've nerfed those a lot as well. It's just one of those fights. Like, I know everyone doesn't do this, but like if you had everyone like YouTube stream their own POV, and then when someone did the junk thing and made a mistake, and everyone watched it, and you were like, they did a great job, but just in case, you know, this is something that they did really well here as an example, or really poorly, and use that as an example to everyone else and say, this is exactly what I don't want you to do, and this is exactly what I do want you to do. And what that will do is now, right after you just talked about it with a clear video example, the next couple people who get those balls are definitely not going to do that thing, or are definitely going to do that thing if it's something good or bad, right? And that will save so many attempts. You basically can, by using VOD review on a boss like Styx, you can group learn a mechanic rather than having everyone figured out individually over time. It is a insane time save. Maybe the best use of it possible. Or if you're a raid leader and you want to save time and maybe everyone doesn't want to stream, you can actually go to some other guilds' POVs and just individually clip some people from other guilds doing the bombs incorrectly or correctly, so you can like use them as examples for people of how to do things when they mess them up themselves. I I mean, one arm bandit is crazy though. So like, look at where's the best place to look at this? Warcraft logs. So Warcraft logs, progress. So look at the kills on one arm bandit, right? So I don't know if there's like an easy way to look at just total pull counts for the fight, but like ours and Echo's are always a little weird because Echo did a little bit of progress on this fight without a video. So like they were doing some testing. We did some testing pulls on this boss. So this is the pulls of Echo and us, like kind of disregard them, is just imagine they would probably be a little lower if we were looking at a video, right? But we do one arm bandit in 56 tries, the first people to kill it. So we're the first people to show what we were doing and with our strat for this. Echo did it in, I believe, a similar amount. Let me see. No, not liquid. Go back. Oh yeah, this is, I don't know why I always do this, but I need to just make different tabs. Different tabs go crazy for this. Okay, Echo, progress. So they did one arm bandit in 61 pulls. So we did it in 56 pulls. They did it in 61. So like pretty similar, like really similar actually, because of like how kind of RNG this fight is. And then I think normally what happens is when we spend some pulls doing a strat, and then also a boss gets massively easier with weeks of gear plus a raid buff, like the 3% stacking raid buff, which did happen. It's usually like the guilds after this that are really, really good and really good at copying videos because they do that every tier. That's what they're good at. They usually are going to do this in way less because they have, you know, probably just as good of a comp. And I believe these next couple of guilds I'm going to look at all do have multiple dot classes, multiple windwalkers, right? But let's go ahead and look at them, right? And that is not what happened. So I'm not going to try to cherry pick a ton of guilds. I actually don't know how well Method did on it. I've never looked at this. So Method did one arm bandit in 102, right? Method not quite on like the top pedestal of guilds yet, but they're going for that, right? The top two, but like they're still really, really good, right? 100, right? Like almost double the amount of pulls as we took while doing it first as well, right? That shows very difficult boss, and they were basically saw the end of the fight for like half of those pulls. This is going to be a theme. Go back to, I guess we'll look at Hot Pot Hero, right? I actually haven't looked at them as well. One Arm Bandit, 168, right? Really good eye level, 3 Shadow Priests, 3 Affliction Locks, 2 Windwalkers, 2 Fire Mage. Good comp. This is the comp you want for this encounter, right? It takes them 168 pulls with full video to kill this boss. They're a really good guild, right? Okay, let's look at Instant Dollars. Absolutely insane guild. Potentially one of a few guilds that could maybe make the claim to the best guild in the world besides the non-Race to World First guilds, right? I mean, this tier, I think they could easily take that claim after this tier, right? One Arm Bandit, 93. They do it a reset or 2 later. I'm not sure, probably a reset later. And they're taking almost double the amount of pulls with full strat, with fucking 4 Shadow Priests, 2 Windwalkers, right? Banger comp. Great comp. Hunt 93 pulls, right? This is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if there's ever been a boss like this where the boss was shown with comp and strat. It is a boss that is, some bosses are not nerfed by gear. Silken Court gear doesn't really matter. Like, you still have to learn the fight, right? This fight is purely just gear. Like, gear will make this fight infinitely easier, right? All right, EU Ragnaros Synergy. One Arm Bandit, 172. One Arm, by the way, I think almost every guild I just mentioned has killed Muggsy in less pulls than One Arm Bandit. It is that article about this fight being insanely hard is not wrong. Now I'm kind of cherry picking here, although not really because I'm going down the list in order, but I will show you Jitian Hong's, if that's how you say that, their progression. They took 400 pulls on One Arm Bandit, not making it up. They did Muggsy in half the amount of pulls, right? Okay, now that's kind of a not great example because they're famously a guild that just pulls a boss they're not good enough to kill a million times until it dies. But, okay, Fat Shark, yes, banger guild, right? Super fucking good. Chrome King Gallywix, 180 or 87. Muggsy Heads of Security, 143, in less pulls than it took us, I believe. One Arm Bandit in almost triple the amount of pulls. Do you see what I'm saying? This is a trend. This is not like a one-off thing. Like, for some reason, us and Echo, even spending a decent amount of pulls coming up with the entire strat, The guilds that normally are going to take a gear boss and do it in less pulls are doing it in significantly more. With more gear, in some cases, a raid buff, and just as good of a comp. It's weird, dude. Like, it's unprecedented. A boss like One Arm Bandit, what I'm describing to you right now, this doesn't happen. This has never happened. It's really strange, honestly. Like, I don't know of a boss where us and Echo just killed it like pretty fast, even with, you know, you could knock 10, 20 pulls off this if we go in with a kill video, you know, probably even more. And all these other guilds had a kill video, and they're doing it in double or triple the amount of pulls, and these guilds are fucking insane. They're so good. That's not true on Muggsy. That's not true on Sprocketmonger. That's not true on Ansurek. That's not true. You know, that's not true on Kaiveza. Do you see the pattern? Like, it's, you could go back in time, going back to the original. You can go through any of these bosses. That none of these was the case, right? It's a really unique boss in that way. By the way, I heard One Arm Bandit and Muggsy got nerfed yesterday. Was that fake news? Muggsy heroic only and no One Arm Bandit. Yeah, basically, I think they should have nerfed One Arm Bandit and Muggsy this week. Like, I think if Blizzard's going to make crazy hard bosses for the Race World first, they just need to nerf them faster. And they've done a good job about that this season with Myth Plus, and they've done a good job about that this season on earlier bosses. But, like, for them, if they're ever going to go back to making Ansurex, and which, I mean, I imagine they will, right? Or Fyrax, or Tendrils, or any of that stuff, all of those bosses are actually okay for us to spend a bunch of time on and be super hard, as long as they're nerfed pretty much right after that. But they just take too long to nerf them. I was listening a little bit to some discourse saying that, like, basically 300 pull bosses are, like, for outside of the Race World first, like, basically no one enjoys a 300 pull boss. They would rather, you know, if the last boss was, you know, 100 pulls on a really hard boss is acceptable, maybe 150, but they'd basically much rather have more 100 to 150 pull bosses instead of 300 ever. And I could definitely feel that. Like, I think 300 pull bosses make you not have any fun, basically, unless you're doing this for a living or do it really, really high level. Oh, you want to know another really, really interesting little side note about this race? Or not this race, this tier? I believe this is accurate. Let me try to find an example. I think I saw Dratnos link this somewhere, but I'm not sure where. Maybe it's in his office, in his Discord. No, it's not. Or general channel of the Potty C Cord, maybe? Shout out to Potty C patrons, by the way. Absolute legends. Okay, it's not there. Where's the best way to look at this? I think basically the stat was there's no... Oh, well, Dratnos tweeted it. There are currently 11 guilds done with the raid, 23 guilds at 6 out of 8, and 0 at 7 out of 8. So that's first of all just kind of a fascinating thing to look at. But I have a question. Do you guys remember the last time that this happened? Or something similar to this happened, where basically once you got past a certain boss, the next boss was just going to... Like, basically something like this could happen. It doesn't even necessarily have to be an end boss. There's one very, very clear one that I can remember. And it was in a raid in Shadowlands. Actually, kind of 2 raids in Shadowlands. Sludgefist? No. Well, okay. Well, I'm kind of giving away by saying that. Yeah, so it happened in Sanctum and in Sepulcher. So, when you killed Painsmith... You went from, like, you killed the next 3 bosses in, like, 2 raid nights. So basically there was no guilds that were... was there 9 bosses in that raid, right? Like, there was no guilds that were 7 out of 9 or 6 out of 9 or maybe there's 10 bosses, I don't remember, but like basically it was like you were on Sylvanas or you were on Painsmith. Another one happened in Sepulchre. So this was not true in the Race World first because Rygallon and Lords of Dread were really hard, but they ended up nerfing Rygallon and Lords of Dread a lot, and also both of those bosses are massively nerfed by eye level. So what you saw was, and second legendaries, which we did not have when we killed them. So when you killed Anduin, Anduin was always really hard because there was an insane amount of pass-fail mechanics. Now, I do regret, this is kind of a tangent, I do regret talking about the pass-fail mechanics on Anduin so much because now I hear people mentioning pass-fail mechanics basically all the time, and I feel like that term has become very misunderstood, and people use it. Like, I've heard people say, like, there's just too many pass-fail mechanics, but, like, the amount of pass-fail mechanics that have been in the last 3 raids since Sepulchre have been about the same as every raid for the past 10 years. That's not ramping, but it's like the way people talk about it, it sounds like it's ramping, and it's basically ever been since Anduin, but Anduin, that was actually true. So I don't know, just random side note that like most of the time when I hear someone mention something like pass-fail mechanics, I immediately assume they have no idea what they're talking about, and it's almost always right. But like as soon as you killed Anduin, you were on Jailer. You just instantly killed Rygallon and Lords of Dread. Like no guilds were stuck on them. Max, do you think Blizzard could get buy-in to release a whole raid without the journal for Heroic and then Mythic mechanics until... Wait, do you think they'd be able to release a whole raid without the journal for Heroic? I think there should absolutely be a dungeon journal for Heroic. It would be stupid for there not to be. But I think you could definitely do no dungeon journal for Mythic. That would be sweet. I mean, we basically did that on Gallywix. The reason why Gallywix was easy was not because of that. And it was really, really fucking cool, too. Dude, we have such a banger idea for our next podcast, by the way. I don't know if we're slamming it next podcast, but it's going to be so fucking good. Also, what I kind of wanted to do today was get Dratnos on to talk about re-ranking our pre-raid like tier list of bosses and like how they turned out. Which we'll probably do that. Max, do you think Gallywix was killable week 1 if you were able to reach the boss? 100. Well, okay, so that's kind of an interesting thought. So Gallywix and Muggsy's health was nerfed at the beginning of week 2. So are you asking if we could have killed Gallywix week 1 without the 8% health nerf with week 1 gear? Yes. Yes, I think we could have. So, but it would have been really hard, though. Because I was thinking about doing it with week 2 gear, and the answer is definitely yes. Like, we could have killed that. We didn't have to optimize at all. We could have dropped a healer. We could have maybe even dropped 2 healers. We could have optimized so much. We didn't even begin to optimize. And just if you guys want to know what that means, because, like, just saying, oh, we didn't even get to optimize, you're kind of just like, what does that mean? You know, like, what does optimizing look like? Like, how powerful is optimizing? I think Ansurek kind of answered that question forever. If you watch the Nerbar Palace race, that should tell you everything about the level that is possible for our guilds to optimize. Because basically everyone, including very credible and knowledgeable Race World First casters, were saying that boss was not killable with its current HP. And you saw us basically wipe to enrage at 15%. And then over the course of the day, we found 15% boss health damage and killed it. And like basically, I don't think anyone, I'm going to be completely honest, including us, thought that we were capable of doing that. So yeah, on Gallywix, we could have got a lot more damage if needed. Max, do you think Blizzard should make him harder? Gallywix? Like after the fact? No, I mean, once you miss, you kind of just have to keep it at that. But I'm sure I mean, it was a colossal error, I'm pretty sure, on their part to make Gallywix as easy as it was. Because, like, an end boss, as hard as Ansurek was, it ended up being a very easy cutting edge. Like, I think an end boss is kind of the one boss you can make completely insanely hard and then just simply nerf it before that matters, because it just takes a while to get there for most people. And also they released a video, which I still haven't watched. They released a video before the raid that like they collaborated with Preach, and they made like an official Race to World First, like here's like the history of the Race to World First officially produced, you know, like you're gonna want to watch this one. Like they literally put marketing and stock into what the Race to World First is, which if you've watched the Race to World First, what the Race to World First is watching people do the last boss. Like there's other parts of it, but like that's the thing, you know, that's when it's the best. And then to have it just end like that is, I've heard some speculation is like Blizzard did that on purpose. Bro, there's no fucking way. That was like a all hands on deck, red alert, what the fuck is happening situation at Blizzard HQ during that. Like that was, someone got some math wrong or something. It was a cool video to walk down memory lane. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Halandris and Anduin were cinema worthy. Halandris and Anduin just had so much going for them though. Like Halandris was like a really cool boss to watch, and it was obviously really hard. But also when we were killing Halandris and Anduin, that was when you guys were used to watching raids end. So like the two most recent raid endings before Jailer were Castle Nathria and Sanctum of Domination. Sanctum of Domination ended on the 6th day. That is when we killed Halandris. And Castle Nathria ended on the 8th day, and that is when we killed Anduin. And that is when, so like basically where viewers were conditioned to see the hype ending of races. They know, like some people tune in every day, but there are some viewers that know when to tune in to see like the big shit happen. And those two bosses happen to be great on their own, but they also happen to exist right at the end of when any normal raid would normally end. That's why you saw such a big fall off after that, because like Lords of Dread, people were like, oh, this is still going, and then like there was very little viewership, and then Rygalon happened, and then it was another like both Echo and Liquid are pulling low at the same time, and then there was like Echo 4 healed it and we 5 healed it. Like 4 healing looked impossible, Echo did it, and then Echo literally on stream said 5 healing isn't possible, and then we killed it as 5 heal. Actually, sorry, they did not say it on stream. They said it just within their own guild. And then you went to Jailer, right? And then what happened on Jailer? Viewership went to the core of the earth low until Jailer was about to die. No one watched it because it was like viewers just weren't used to watching a Race to World First that long. And it took until the boss was about to die for it to pop off again. Max, I'm sure you're aware of this, but you and Echo's total time in combat against Halandris up until the first kill was a difference of 5 minutes. Wait, up until the first kill, so up until we killed it? Average time in combat is kind of weird. It kind of depends on who gets to the boss first, right? Like, for example, our average time in combat, our time in combat on, like, Gallywix was a lot more than Echo's, right? But, like, our interaction with Gallywix and Echo's is completely different. But then sometimes we get to a boss, we both do a decent amount of fact finding, have different strats-ish, and then like that ends up being like a stat you could look at. Max, did you unmute Hopeful on Twitter? Boys, never had him muted. I was not sure about that, but it ended up being true. I went, dude, as soon as we recruited Hopeful, I went to his Twitter on stream to unmute him, and he was already unmuted. Sure? Bro, this was live. This happened live. Which race was the most fun for you throughout the whole thing? Okay, so like, even though it's a perfect morning for us as Echo killed the previous boss and then got to work on the next boss a little bit, and then we wake up. Because then that means you get some free information. But it's not great for the mental because being behind ever just doesn't feel great. So I would say maybe the most fun I've ever had was maybe Nerebar Palace, because like there's always this moment during the race where you wake up and there's like this feeling of, man, I hope Echo didn't play like super well and get ahead of us. And then you wake up and see that that's true or not true. And even if it's true, it's like, okay, we have some information now. But if it's not true, it's like for example, the reason we were so locked in on Galley was like we woke up and saw they didn't kill Muggsy, and that was just like, oh, this race is over, right? You knew as soon as you woke up because you were expecting like, oh man, what if they killed Muggsy fast and they're even farther on us than Gallywix, and this boss is easy and maybe they can kill it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the fear. But like as soon as you see that, it's like, okay, so answering that question, giving you a little insight, the raids that were probably the most fun were like Nyalotha and Nerebar Palace. And fun is a big factor, but I'm just going to say like I'm having more fun when I'm not stressed out. And it's slightly stressing to be behind ever for any reason, even though it's always going to happen in most raids, right? But like in Nerebar Palace or Nyalotha, we were never behind, so you were never stressed. You basically woke up every morning like, oh, wow, how are we still in the lead? What the fuck? All right, let's go. And then you're like fucking hyped all day. So those are just fun because you're in a great mood, you know? FYI, I thought Echo was going to kill Muggsy as well. Yeah, I think their strat or maybe comp is maybe why they had to do their strat. I think their comp was a lot worse. Like they chose to play double warrior, which I'm assuming is for like better execute damage in the last phase, but because of that, they had less porting classes and they had to send more people into the jails in the last phase, which I think netted them less last phase damage. So like for example, do you know the last phase where we had so during the last here, I'll show you this actually. Liquid Muggsy. And let's do Echo Muggsy. So I don't know this for sure. This might be something interesting to just talk about with Echo maybe at some point. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but...
So, she's so excited.
But like, look at the end here. So not when we're killing it, but... So when we're going and doing the jails... So we each do the 4 jails in like a roughly similar spot in the room. I think we also use the hot mess to break out 2 things. But I want you to pay attention to how many damage players we have in the jails killing them. Okay. So you can see this on the UI in a second by looking now. Okay, so here's the people that we have in the jail. Okay, we have Splat, THD, Boomy, Shaq, and Trill. You can't really see Trill. But 5. We have 5 DPS total going into this jail set. We're utilizing Mage Ignite. We utilized Prot Warrior doing insane damage. This goon right here is killed by Prot Warrior and a Mistweaver Monk. A Mistweaver saving up charges and a Prot Warrior just blasting. Okay? And everyone else is hitting the boss. Okay? So even though they ran 2 warriors, if you look at their jails, let me skip ahead. To like kill these quick, I think their strat was like, let's kill them as fast as possible, send in more DPS players, and then that way we can get more damage on the boss because, you know, we're out of the jails. Everyone's out of the jails faster rather than having less people in there for longer. I believe they send a lot more. Let me double check though. Okay, so here's the amount of DPS they have in jails. Okay, so again, we had 5 DPS total. We had 3 healers, 1 tank, and 5 DPS. They have 3 healers, 1 tank, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. They have 9 DPS in jails. Almost twice as many DPS in jails. And they die at almost the exact same time. It's like we utilized like big healer damage, big tank damage. We sent in our Prot Warrior instead of Prot Paladin because they do infinitely more damage. They probably, although they left their Prot Paladin out to like, them leaving Prot Paladin in instead of Warrior is better because Warrior can execute the boss. But like we used that Warrior burst damage to like kill a goon. So like that's why, even though they had a better last phase damage comp technically, I don't think they actually did more damage than us in the last phase because of this. So that's like one comp thing. So like when we went to bed knowing how they were doing the last phase of Muggsy, we didn't feel like they were going to kill it super fast, but we did expect them to kill it before we woke up for sure. Especially because we like kind of figured out how to deal with the bug, and we talked about it on stream, and it sounded like it took them a lot longer to figure out how to deal with the bug during their day. Like, we definitely had a decent amount of bug wipes. Like, if you guys remember, like, I don't even know if you can still find this clip of me. Maybe you can actually here, but like there's a wipe of us. Here we go to my channel here, clips. This would have to be 30 days, but like it's gonna be something called, here it is, please fix bugs Blizzard, as 8,000 views.
This one, I pinged it.
Anyone can get the okay. We have fucking, this is like, we have one person dead, but the boss is super low. This is a kill.
Rocketeer's gonna jump onto the boss.
And this was hours before we killed it.
Boss here, finger gun, and then we're doing 2 pops, okay? Do not get hit by the finger gun.
Let me move my camera so you can see.
Okay. Popping in 3, 2, 1, go.
And you can see he's walking over it. It's bugged.
Working. Either of them are working.
It's bugged.
Okay, but you'll see in this clip. Well, okay, I'll let you watch me freak out.
Dude, fix the fucking boss, man.
Okay, so clearly we were wiping the bugs in case you're like asleep at that time. This was not the first time this happened. This was like 3 wipes in a row to the bug. Okay, so we're pissed, right? But then we noticed something.
1, go.
Okay, so we noticed Smacked is saying they're not working. Watch Smacked's character. Okay, now watch what happens when Smacked strafes behind where this thing is actually moving. Okay, right here. He's going to strafe to the right, and it's going to pop this mine. Okay, right here. So Smacked is going to pop this mine basically instantly. This is where we learned about the desync. Because we're like, okay, well, they move faster when they're CC enraged. I think the game just thinks where they would be if they weren't CC enraged speed. So then Smacked pops it, and then you can see it port back. Does everyone see that? Here's how the bug works. Here we go. Ready? Watch the mine's actual model. Let me actually play this in like giga low speed. All right, watch what happens when Smack pops this. Do you see how it moves back? Like 2 feet, 3 feet, or yards, I guess. Look how it ports back. Look at that? You see that? I'll show it again. I'm not going to pause or anything. I'll just let you watch it. Here we go. Smack's trying to pop it. He says it's broken. We realize we're wiping. He goes back. Boom. It ports 5 yards back. Okay, so that's where we were like, okay, there's a clear desync. We talked about it for 10 minutes on stream. We talked about the solution, and then we fixed the bug basically after this. And then Echo ended up killing the boss like, I think 12 hours after this, or maybe, no, we woke up 12 hours after this because we did like 3 hours of Gallywix attempts before we went to bed. And Echo ended up killing this, I think, like 15 or 16 hours later. And it wasn't until like an hour before they killed it or like 2 hours, where they started talking about the same way of dealing with the bug. So like this information was there for them. None of this conversation was muted. We did all of this on stream on exactly how to solve it with this clip. So I feel like that's just a big error on their part. If the bug actually did wipe them for that much. Max, do you think they are close on Galley if they killed Muggsy before lunch? Maybe, but also they weren't in a position to kill Muggsy before lunch, though. Like they were like the bug did not wipe them for 6 hours. It took them a while to like get good at the last phase as well. We need Roger and Max to be friends again. The best combo there is for post race world first. I mean, I'm cool with Roger. To be honest, I don't know if he's cool with me. I mean, he's messaged me multiple times since the race. I mean, we probably could talk about the race. I don't know if that's something he wants to do. Like basically, okay, so our guilds were cool leaving BlizzCon-ish, you know? We tried to, like, talk some shit out. We didn't get quite on the same page on, like, how the release affects it. Like, both of us agree, like, there should be a global release, right? But I think, you know, how much conversation there is around global release, you know, like in Sarkareth, they were like, world's fastest or whatever, you know, like that. There's just like things we don't exactly see eye to eye on. But then, like, leaving BlizzCon, we were in a pretty good place. We did the Amir Drasil race, we lost, and then even though I lost, I like got on a stream with them and talked about the raid, made that content, you know? But there hasn't been anything like that since the Sneak Not Lua stuff. Like, that has been, I think Echo's official stance on that, even though they've never really given one or acknowledged it, is that, like, they don't think that was cheating and we think it was. And that's the thing. That is, like, if there's any reason why we're not talking on stream about the race, it's because of that. But, like, I don't, like, have any ill will towards any of the officers specifically. There's definitely people in the guild we avoid, but there's the officer, like, Roger's always been fine with me. Roger just fucking loves the game, dude. Max, you think Gallywix would have been killable week 1? What about Muggsy? So are you using the same parameters where they didn't nerf Muggsy's health and it's week 1? Because definitely not. Like, definitely not. If they didn't do Muggsy's, I think it was like 8% HP on Muggsy. If they didn't do that and we had week 1 gear, I mean, what do you think, right? I mean, there's like no fucking way. I'm pretty sure if they didn't nerf Muggsy, it wouldn't have died week 2, maybe. It would have, just like a day later. Because here's the thing. So 4 healing was possible on that boss. It was just so hard. Like, we did a bunch of pulls 4 healing. So we're like, we knew what it was, what we were capable of with it. But that would have been another day of progression to 4 heal for sure. And then with 4 healing, with week 1 gear, you would have had enough damage to kill it. But it would have been way fucking harder, man. Oh my god, the healing would have been so insane. Like, 4 healing week 1 just sounds so impossible. I mean, actually, okay, yes, okay, I totally take this back. So assuming they didn't not nerf it by 8%, because that needed to happen anyway, I think we would have killed it week 1, maybe even 5 healing, because we would have just Vantised. Like, no guild had a pull on Muggsy where, like, they perfectly optimized damage and just totally shit on the enrage, you know? Like, here, even looking at our kill, right? Look at our kill. So we get the boss here. Dranaco dies. Couple, like, Exile dies here. But, like at this point, we know the boss is dead. We res Exile, and the boss, like, is at 1.9%. It hasn't started its 10-second enrage, which also we can spell warding and immune to live past, you know? So, like, this boss is astro dead. Like, we fucking shit on Muggsy. But this wasn't the best we could have done, though. Like, we could have, if we, like, basically, like, when you're coming down to optimizing damage, like, you could have killed this with just better play by probably, like, 3% more HP, but again, it would have taken, like, a day of progression maybe to get there. I just messaged Roger and told him if he wants to talk about the raid on stream that he can. I just highly doubt that he'll want to, because, you know, it really sucks to do it. I've done it before, and they've done it before, but, like, doing it after you lose turbo sucks. It's not fun. And also there's like some stuff between the guilds, but I don't know. If he wants to do it, it's down. But it's easy for me to say let's do it because we just won, right? It's not, and I would totally respect if he didn't want to do it. It's fine. Why not Scripe? It could be with Scripe too. I just would reach out to Roger first. It'd be a group of them probably if they want to do it. Mira said he was down. Dude, by the way, is it possible to dislike Miras? I was just thinking about that. Like you said that and then I just got stun locked in my head and I'm just like, I wonder if it would be possible to dislike Miras. He's just a nice guy. Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about some comp strat difference stuff. But like I think Echo had to do this, right? Because they don't have 3 mages, and 3 mages hard carries the ignites on this set, on like the 2 that are close to the boss. And like let's say they mimic what we did. So we sent Zevi and Scott into this one. So let's say Miraz and him go into this one. And then this one was less people because of Ignite. I think this one was maybe just THD plus healer. Yeah, THD plus healer in this one. So they could have done that with Zerwo plus Zotzi. Okay, then this one doesn't get ignited for us. So that would have to be 2 DPS plus healer. Which would be, and they have to be porters. So that would be Swag, Demon Hunter plus 3rd healer, which would be Artie. And then the 4th one we had was Shaq and Trill, which you could do with Clicks and the other Demon Hunter. And then they just 2-manned it. They did it with no healers in there. We just gave them each an external going in, and I think Shaq nethered the hit, and he just leeches through it. And then we gave Trill a Monk Bubble. And then they did it with no healers. So they had the ability to actually do what we did, but they just chose to send in warrior. They chose to send in 2 warriors plus rogue plus hunter more than what we did. And that's really interesting. I'm assuming they sent them on the ones. They break 3 with Hot Mess, so they like triple stack those. Like I understand why they do it. Maybe it wasn't that much different. I don't know. If the Warriors didn't lose their stacks, maybe it, let's see. Zerwo said Wexy had a hand injury, so he couldn't play, and then he got geared up for Galley. Was not geared before, and Flex had a hand injury. Oh, that's kind of unlucky. Yeah, it's interesting where Mage is like, whenever Fire Mage is good, it like changes the way you play bosses. It's kind of like how Melee Cleave was so good last year, so it changed the way that you did like the Ansurek ads because you just dragged around because Melee Cleave was so broken. Like anytime Fire Mage is broken, you basically just make your strat around. Although, does anyone else think, okay, so it's definitely a bug that Ignite works, right? Like have you guys seen what they do for Ignite? Here. Like it's definitely not intended. So a little bit of side information on PTR, they made it so like basically everything would cleave through jails. Like basically any mechanic you can think of, like proximity wise, if you did like a thrash as a druid from right here, it would just thrash and hit that ad. Or if you were, I don't think maybe Starfall did. I don't remember if Starfall did or didn't work, but like Shadow Priest worked. Do you know what you used to be able to do? Shadow Priest could shadow crash in between 2 jails, hit both ads, and before the jail, the 0.1 seconds before the jail hits and the ad spawns, you could snipe an instacast VT on the goon, and you could be psychic link cleaving every goon while hitting the boss, by the way. That was possible. And they nerfed all of that shit. Obviously, Fire Mage Ignite worked, like, without even having to do the weird shit. And then what they did is, like, I guess the solution they did was like if you're never in the jail, you like can't touch the ads for any reason. But then mages can just do some stupid shit like this, where they basically just have to apply Ignite one time, apply Ignite again, and then now both of these have a manual Ignite. So now when you ignite off the boss, it just spreads to anything that it would normally spread to, which is a clever solution. But like Blizzard certainly didn't intend this because they nerfed basically every single way it could have worked. You know what also would have been insane for this? Warlock, dude. Affliction Warlock could have potentially... We came up with some stuff pre-raid. And it was like, how are you going to position on this boss to get the most possible cleave? And what's the most broken way to get the most goon damage? And it was basically like this boss standing here. And then you had like the 4 goon jails, right? And what you could do is place them like pretty much like this. The boss didn't enrage unless the center of his pixel was in any goon jail. This is no hot mess. This is purely just trying to get the most damage possible. You could do something like this, and Warlock's UA with their tier set, if they got a jackpot, or with their 2 minutes, would just basically cleave every single goon. Well, not every goon. It's like 2 other goons or something, but like the damage was absolutely fucking insane. Like you could basically fully ignore the jails. You also used to be able to gate in and out of the jails. They removed like a lot of ways to fuck with it. So what is the Fire Mage tech? I understand what he does to get to the first ignite and then get out, but what is he doing to end up in the second jail? Dude, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have no idea. Like when I first saw Fired Up do this, I was like, do you have 2 alter times? Like, but it's something called displacement. Yeah, it's like, I believe what he does is like before it comes out, so like he knows that things are coming out, jails are coming out. So he places an altar like where he wants to be at the end of it. That's the last thing to happen. And then he displaces over here, blinks to his spot. So now he ignites this ad, displaces to the other ad, and then his altar ends, or he cancels it early and then alters out. Max, can you also use the Void Elf racial? Yeah, we had a few of our players go Void Elf to make this easier. You also don't need... you also don't need... Wait, I forget what I was going to say. Sorry. My brain just fucking blew up. Did Fired Up come up? I don't know if Fired Up came up with it at one of our other mages. It sounds like something Fired Up would think of. Or if Echo mages were doing it first. I genuinely don't know. Fired Up said he thought it up. Yep. I'm thought up. Hopeful was doing it, but Gingy wasn't. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I didn't watch a lot of their progression. I'm not sure if like it made sense for him to do it or not do it. I don't know if he was even doing it. Like I've heard some viewers say he didn't do it, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's just like fan fiction from like the eye roll clip, and then people were getting all weird about it. Gingy said Displace wasn't as worth as Ice Cold. Oh, so Dranako was playing Ice Cold instead of Ice Block. I know that. In fact, I think you can see it right here. So like Dranako gets the hot mess and he greater... Oh no, he just greater invises, but I don't know if you see Ice Cold on his like UI anywhere. But I know he didn't take Ice Block, which means he should have Ice Cold, right? Gingy didn't do it. He didn't run Displace on their kill. Okay, but like here's the thing though. So let me show you logs. If Echo doesn't have a third mage and can't hard commit to ignite, let me go to our kill. Where is this? Mythic Mugsy 4? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so specifically damage done to Galagio goons on different sets. Okay, so like
This is first set. This is second set with 3. So because we had so much mage damage on these, we could take players out of the jails. So if Echo wasn't doing that, like if Echo was pushing P1, for example, here's why it might not be worth for them. So if Echo was having to stop damage in P1 just like we were, and by the time they were doing the mage shit, and they couldn't fully commit to it by having 3, maybe they couldn't take people out of their jails, so it didn't actually make sense. Because you can actually kill the jails too fast in P1, and then the Warlocks and Windwalkers have to deal with like getting the Frost Shatter boots, which is really annoying. So like there is precedent to think it wasn't actually good for their strat. Like our strat was let's go all the way into Mage Ignite and then play around it. So when you look at our positioning, I can actually show you our raid plan. I can show you how we prepared it. Let me find it here. I'll wait till I actually find it to show it on the screen because you guys are going to wait, where the fuck is it? Wait, where the fuck is it? Did someone move these sheets around? Where's new raid? New raid should be the... Oh, it's at the beginning. Okay. Here we go. So here we go. So these were our set of jails. It's kind of hard to read it because here's the one you want to look at. The other one we never... This was the 4 heal version, which, you know, we played around with a little bit. Let's look at the 5 heal one. So that's not even true. Oh, this just shows the people who are soaking it, so it's not. This was a other thing as well. So on our first set of jails, we only put in a healer and a... Are you leaking the chat? Huh? Yeah, sorry for the flashbang as well, but on the set that's... So left and right get ignite cleaved on the first set, left and right get ignite cleaved on the second set, or left and bottom left do, but right doesn't. So you see we put an extra DPS in right to do it quickly. But left and right, we can take them out because of the mage cleave. Left and bottom left, we can take out... There's only 1 DPS in both of these jails because of ignite cleave, where the right 2 each have 3, except Exile doesn't actually stay in and Shaq owns it. But like, do you see how we set it up that way? Like basically every time there's ones getting ignited, like the boss is here during this one, the boss is here during this one, and the boss is here during this one. So like on all of those, we have 1 less DPS. So if what Echo was doing was... If Echo, I didn't see what they were doing in P1, but potentially by the time they were already in the last phase, they were doing their jails, and it was like they're already chilling with it. Like they're here. I can actually find out right now. So this is their first set of jails. You'll be able to tell by this. So yeah. So this is okay. So they're already doing this. So this is what their jails look like. So their jails. Do you guys see how our first set we have 2 people go in the jails total? They just had an extra DPS. Echoes was this. Echoes was Warlock, DPS, or they only have 1 Warlock, but like they had double DPS in each one with that because they didn't have probably enough Ignite Cleave with only 2 mages to remove a DPS from it entirely. And the reality is if they're pushing 40% like they obviously do here while doing that, it doesn't actually matter. Like, you know what I mean? Their strat just... This is the beautiful thing about raid strategy. Like their strat might not have even mattered in P1, right? At all. And then in the last phase, you're saying like, well, they had to put in 9 DPS into the last set of jails. Okay. But like they're planning on Hot Mess breaking out 3 of them anyway. And they didn't need the damage otherwise. So like if you're wondering why Hopeful was doing it and Gingy wasn't, they didn't have like enough Ignite Cleave to actually remove DPS. So at that point, it kind of doesn't matter. You don't need to ignite any of them. Max, you guys had to full stop DPS for like 15 seconds on the kill pull before pushing to 40%. Yeah, but that I'm assuming they were doing the same thing. Like obviously it's better to have to stop DPS than to have wipes due to not having enough DPS, which we had basically none of. but I'm assuming they also had to stop. Like, I don't know. Let's see what percentage they had here. So they're getting the mines to spawn at 49. That is that's like a, you don't have to stop damage, but you it's not like super, it's not going to be, you're not going to stop damage forever. Like, let's see, hot mess at 45. Yeah, they basically never stopped here on their kill. Right? Let me see. Oh no, they do, right? 41%. Oh no, yeah, that means no, they just never stopped. But the thing is unless I'm not an Echo, but unless Echo wiped a lot to not pushing in time, then I don't think the P1 stuff mattered at all. Yeah, we did not. Okay, so they didn't wipe to missing damage. So Genji not igniting in P1 is like actually irrelevant. Like, it did not matter. And then in the last phase, the reality is they probably couldn't have done as many DPS out of the jails as we did without 3 mages. So if you're not like taking people out of the jails, what Genji did doesn't seem not good. And I think the way that some people have been phrasing it is that like Genji like couldn't do it or something. But like the thought process actually makes sense, and the reason it would be different in our strat and theirs is like it lines up. Now the fucking the PI giving him like 3 extra combust or whatever, that's a totally that's different. But the actual like blinking thing doesn't matter, I don't think.
Alrighty. Maybe it's time. Alright. Let's get... Actually, before I call Dratnos, let's see if we can find the correct like tier maker thing. It would be Liberation of Undermine, right? Liberation of Undermine boss tier list. Okay, let me find our previous video though, because I did one before. Yo, shout out my clip guy, by the way. I have someone non-Franc making like clips that are going on YouTube. It's like a Maximum Clips channel, and it's actually been pretty nice. Dude, remember how good the Scarzar interview was? All new raid bosses tier list prediction with Dratnos. All right, let's just go back. So we thought that Vexy would be an S tier first boss. We thought Muggsy would be an S tier second to last boss. We thought, what's the name of this boss again? Cauldron of Carnage would be an A tier second boss. Styx would be an A tier fourth boss. Sprocketmonger an A tier fifth boss. One Arm Bandit we put in B, and then Rick Reverb we put in C. And where do we rank Gallywix? Although Gallywix was just like a complete random guess. Let's see, where did they go here? Like, I feel like when we're rating this, we're basically rating what we saw in Mythic testing as far as like boss design. But like we never got to test Gallywix, and also Gallywix is a completely different boss, so we just probably left it off. Disrespect to Richard Reverberation. He just dropped a diss track on you guys. Is Richard Reverb a good, like a well-liked boss? Like, the issue I have with Rick Reverb is it's like kind of chaotic. It's like baiting things is really annoying. The fact that it baited ranged ones on pets is super bad. But like the soaking mechanic seems somewhat okay. But then it's also like kind of I don't know. It's kind of visually cool. Really good vibe of the boss as well. Okay, so how do I set up this stream? So I'm going to call Dratty. Calling Dratty for sure. And I need to have a tier list tab. And then this could probably maybe even... Yo, let's do some technology here. Maybe on one side of the stream we could have the tier list, and the other side we could have like a boss thing, or like how is Frank? Let's think, how is Frank gonna edit this? Do we want to just full screen tier list and then have like a link to all the bosses on a different tab? That kind of makes sense. What's the best way to produce this content? So what do we do? Vexy, Mythic, Liquid. I mean, is there just a... Do we have a VOD of us? I guess I could just do a VOD of us doing all of these bosses. That kind of works. Do we have a VOD of every fight? We do. Are they only going to play when I go to the tab? Oh yeah, they are. I don't even have to do this. But I'm going to do it anyway because I'm stupid. Max, huge grats on getting hopeful, by the way. Thanks. I don't feel like we really did anything. Like, we tried to recruit... So, we heard he was, like, gonna go to, like, Echo or us, and we were like, alright, let's try to recruit him. Actually, full disclosure, like, a couple years ago, we were not interested in recruiting hopeful. We were like, we're good on mages. And then we heard he was going to Echo, so we were like, okay, we could probably make room. Purely just to, like, you know... Like, addition by subtraction. Not to just bury him on the bench, but, like, him going there could potentially be bad for us, so why, you know. And then, like, the tier after that, he didn't want to raid here, so we were like, okay, cool. And then after this tier, I think he just reached out, but also, like, this tier changed our perspective on a lot of things. This tier, we've had a lot of people be one-tricks for a long time, and this tier proved that with a 30-man roster, that actually can't happen. Because you just need so much more coverage. Like every guild had healers DPS in this tier on different bosses. As Moonkin, as Windwalker, as Shadow Priest. Like, that never happens. Like, I'm going to look at... So, basically, we just have more people multi-classing. So, having more, like, mage mains doesn't really matter. Because we need some of them to cover Hunter, maybe. Or some of them to cover Moonkin, or whatever. That'll be true with everyone. Boomy is good at playing other classes. Yeah, Boomy's good. So the only thing with Dratnos is he hasn't done a lot of these fights on Mythic, but I feel like he's seen them enough to have very good perspective on it. But I think he's done almost all of them. I think he's killed One Arm Bandit and has had pulls on Muggsy. In fact, I think last time I checked, they were pretty low on Muggsy. Let me double check. Pretty sure they got like really low really fast. Where's Pop-Tart Corn Dog? There it is. Muggsy, heads of security. Yeah, they're at 19%, which is basically... I mean, isn't that kind of flubbing your way through the first mines? I mean, this is so funny. It took them 25 pulls to basically get to the intermission. And then they've just been hard stuck at this percentage since then. Because the percentage is... Around this boss percentage is just, you know, you're doing the mines and then you're doing the jails. You're doing the two hardest things in the fight back to back. You're doing the 4 mines into the frost boots, which is in my opinion harder than the 6 mines before that. And then you have the 4 jails, which is like by far the biggest progression point. Make sure to check UG. They are still going at Muggsy. Wait, who is UG? Oh, this guild? They're currently the... Okay, so they've been on Muggsy for 12 hours longer than anyone else. Let's check this shit out. Bro, they've got the fucking comp, too.
triple Fire Mage, double Windwalker, double Destro Lock. I mean, is this our comp? Is this literally our comp? Like word for word, bar for bar? I think it is. Pretty sure it is. Wow. That's holy shit. Dude, the Chinese guilds are built diff, dude. Like, you guys are sitting here laughing at them, but like, I'd be willing to bet 99% of you would quit a guild before you pulled Sprocketmonger 430 times. Sticks for... Bro, what the fuck is going on with this guild? 11 pulls on Cauldron, 3 on Vexy, which is crazy. 70 pulls on Rick Reverb. 400 on Styx Bunkjunger, 400 on Sprocketmonger. Like, you guys complain about pulling, like, a boss like Ansarek, like, 200, 300 times deep in farm is, like, an unfun experience. Can you imagine just pulling a boss 400 times with absolutely no hope of killing it and just continuing to do that over and over again? Like, that sounds miserable, man. Every boss is Ansarek for them. Yeah, like every single boss. You're just turning every boss into Ansarek. They have Ansarek pull counts on 4 bosses this raid. In a row. Oh my god. They are 1,600 pulls into this raid. And it's not even over. You know, just for fun, what were their Nerebar pull counts? I don't know why they're out of order, but 300 pulls on Brood Twister, 255 on Nexus Princess. That was post nerf. Silken Court 170. Wait, just like a respectable Silken Court kill. That's interesting. Yeah, and okay. More impressively, it took them more pulls than it took us to kill it weeks beforehand just to see P3. It took 412 pulls before they were in P3. 420. Weed. That's just a crazy thing to look at. Anyways. Kind of sidetracked there. Calling up Dratnos. Hello?
Yo.
Hey. Yo, real quick. How's it going on Muggsy?
Haven't pulled it yet this week, but not our finest work so far.
Wait, so you just re-cleared last night?
Yeah, yesterday was just re-clear.
Wait, it took you 4
Re-clear
hours
and,
to re-clear?
like 3 heroic galleys, 3 normal galleys. We still
yeah.
don't have Iacozan on everybody.
Oh, yeah. The Raced World first split diffy.
Yeah.
I think it was the beginning of the second Mythic lockout, I believe. Like when we were done with our splits on the second Tuesday, every single raider had Heroic House of Cards and Eye of Kazan, which is just like completely ridiculous.
Yeah, we still need some of that.
Okay, so do you remember what we said before the tier as far as like raid boss design and what we thought would have been cool?
No.
I briefly looked at it. It was... I think we didn't rate Galley because it's like, how can you? You know, you're just making shit up. You know nothing about the boss. It's not tested. The Dungeon Journal wasn't complete at that point. But I believe we did... So we did Vexy as an S tier. If anyone's like new to this as well, we're kind of ranking the bosses for like where they are in the raid. So like, as you see here, we have Muggsy and Vexy in S tier. That doesn't mean they are equally good bosses because like they're not trying to be the same thing, right? And then so it's like kind of where they are in the raid. And we had Muggsy in here. I'll share my screen with you too, so this will be real time. That makes sense. Oh, wait. Tell me, is it lagging? Because I have it on 1440/60, and that's typically horrible for Discord.
I think it's fine.
Really? I'm moving my mouse around. Does it look...
Yeah.
scrolling.
Looks normal. Scrolling works.
Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe they've made it better. Yeah,
Discord did update, so maybe they fixed that in
yeah.
addition to making
I
new UI
noticed
shit.
some of the stuff looks square-like instead of circles. Don't know how I feel about that, but Cauldron of Carnage, Styx, and Sprocket in A. One Arm Bandit in B. I have a lot to ask you about One Arm Bandit. I'm kind of fascinated with that boss. There was a Wowhead article about it, but like, can you remember actually, we can just talk about this when we get to One Arm Bandit. But I just think it's like a historically significant boss as far as like how long it's taking people to kill versus the race. Okay, and then Rick Reverb we put in C. Do you know why we slandered Rick Reverb so much?
That fight sucked on PTR testing.
Does it not?
Like it was
suck
super
now?
cringe and buggy on testing. And then I think we had it low just because, I don't know, it didn't seem like super fun, clear. The MC is kind of like randomly difficult to avoid.
No, yeah, that was less of a thing. Okay, cool. All right, you ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right, so I have all of them completely unranked. Just a typical tier list, S through D. Let's start with Vexy. Oh, wrong boss. Or it was already playing. So we ranked this as S just because what? It's like a car when it pulls, it kind of skirts around and kills people, and you just kill dudes on motorcycles and then shoot them into the boss. I don't know that. Okay, we do this right. Like, what first bosses in your memory are aesthetically as cool or better, or were just better and more enjoyable first boss experiences?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I think this is definitely up there. It's got, it's got like one important mechanic that you have to do or you're going to wipe, and then a bunch of unimportant mechanics that are fine. It's got like a little bit of mythic, healing requirement where if you come in as a, you might get reality checked that you can't do mythic maybe, but it's very easy compared to all the other bosses in the tier, which is good. I think it compares very favorably. Like, I think that in terms of first bosses I'm like excited to do, this one is up there with, I don't know, like Gnarl Root was another really good one, I think, where it was like
Very
just, like,
similar.
fun to zone in and do the first boss, right?
That seems to be like their archetype now for first bosses. It seems like they do this like kind of easy boss with like a little gimmick intermission and a damage amp. That seems to be like their go-to. That's been Aranog. That's been this. That's been like kind of like Shriekwing, but without that one. Didn't wait? Did Shriekwing have a damage amp? I don't think it did.
It had like an immune phase, which is also the Olgrax model.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like kind of like a.
I hate those ones. Yeah,
Yeah, you'd
actually,
much-
Shriekwing I kind of liked because it was just a cool fight, but yeah,
damage
I hate
amps
the
are just
Olgrax
kind of nice.
style.
Damage amps are just kind of nice. This one, the gimmick here is instead of like Gnarl Root where you're burning a bunch of plants, the gimmick here is like there's ads coming in that have to be like, Mythic plus CC'd, some like hard CC on some Mythic ad that just never ends up making it to melee anyway. Also kind of funny, I always get a kick out of when it ends and like the last set of ads are coming in, if they can't repair the boss, they just blow themselves up. Like some job's done kind of shit.
Yeah.
Love that. The oil mechanic is simple. Like if you get too much of it, you can just like clear it with fire, I guess, but it is kind of just like all over the place, baiting the mobs on the wall. You kind of you don't utilize the entire room. I don't know if that matters. I don't know if this is very complicated, but I would just like, is this like, what's the argument that this isn't just like a great first boss? Is there one? Just seems like it's really good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's people who don't like it, but
Really?
I don't think you can really expect better for a first boss.
Yeah, banger. And
this
the
is,
theme,
this
it's
is
like,
banger, yeah.
I think the early boss in this raid really nailed it on theme because our like apparel that we made was like heavily themed after Cauldron of Carnage and Vexy, which are like otherwise irrelevant fights, but they're just like really, really cool looking things. So I think they're cool. I would put it in S tier. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I like S for Vexy. Again, it's compared to other first bosses, right? So definitely.
And maybe just something in general, they've just done really well on the first bosses for a while. And maybe another argument is like it's hard for them to do first bosses wrong, but they just definitely have done that in the past. I guess what is a bad first
I think
boss?
Olgrax
like?
was pretty wrong. Like I did not enjoy doing Olgrax on Reclair at all. You're just there like waiting for him to finish his stupid ass charges and then gather all these ads up and.
I mean, any
so
first
I didn't like that one.
any first boss where the ads are the focus seems to be a like that doesn't hit. I think if they're like supplementary or just like really shitty ads, it seems like it's fine. Also, we randomly almost wiped on this boss because we
wiped to this boss. We almost wiped this boss every single time. There was a last week's reclear. We one shot everything except for Vexy. It was crazy.
yeah. Oh, you guys actually did wipe it. Yeah, no, it's like if you just get behind on the bikes, you just the boss just kills you.
Or you like dunk some through some oil and it despawns the bike, which is kind of buggy. It sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. There's also that spot that you can bait all of them into, which is kind of funny, but I don't think it matters. I should say we are rating these on Mythic as well. There's a Mythic list, so
Mythic
there
purely.
are some bosses
Yep.
that really is important for, like
Sepulcher.
Crucible or Sepulcher first boss, right? Sepulcher first boss was awful on the lower difficulties and like fine on Mythic because you could just hit the boss right away on Mythic, which is nice.
Yeah. What else was I gonna say about this guy other than nope? I think that's it. We're good. I had a point, but I forgot it. So S tier first boss for Vexy. I guess we'll just go in order of where they were killed. Obviously, you could have gone to any boss after this, but it seemed like there's a lot of talk before this raid of like, oh, this is super interesting. We just had this super linear, I mean, literally linear raid in Nerebar Palace, and now it's like, oh, the first 4 bosses after Vexy could all be. In fact, I think you could even get past Vexy. I think you could have done any of the first 5 bosses in any order, basically, but they weren't. Like they were very clearly. Like they had a difficulty curve in an intended one. I think that was more just because like the layout of the zone really did not make it linear.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, right? Like if they had tried to make all 4 of the bosses equally challenging, but they very clearly didn't. Like there was still an order to it, so it was mostly cosmetic.
Okay, I want to ask more about that at the end because I think I've heard some takes recently that make me think that is actually something that could be a thing where you have like it's less like nuclear difficulty at the end and super easy at the beginning, and you kind of just average out the difficulty more. Basically, like does the raiding community enjoy more 50 to 100 pull bosses, but that comes at the expense of not having any 300? And I think there's some credible arguments that that's just good.
Yeah, it would be very hard to do that in the context of like 4 bosses you could go to at the same time, all being equally difficult. Just because if that was true, your guild would gain more gear for the later ones and they'd be a lot easier, right? Like whichever one you chose as your week 1 boss would be your 200 pull boss, and then whichever one you were pulling up to on week 3 would be a 20 puller, even if they were all equally balanced.
Yeah. Okay, Cauldron of Carnage, second fight. What do you think?
Yeah, so I feel like this boss could have used like 20% less health or something. Like I feel like it gets a little it's one of the bosses that just gets a little boring due to its length. Again, we're at the part of the raid where the difficulty isn't especially what the fight is about, but I do think that it represents a sizable step up in difficulty for a second boss compared to a lot of previous tiers. Like if you think about this being the spot that was occupied by Bloodbound Horror, right, or Igira the Cruel, right, these bosses that pretty often, assaulted as a Zakali, right? Like bosses where it was like, okay, if you can kill the first boss, you can kill the second. That's not at all true this tier. If you can kill the first boss, there's going to be a lot of pugs that kill Vexy and do not kill another boss.
Okay.
Because they wipe on this boss, which
is that good?
Interesting. It's bad for like Vault, like there are a lot of good reasons to have 4 easy bosses that you can pug or 2 easy bosses that you can pug because it's nice for vaults, but it is good for the difficulty curve actually being a curve instead of like staircase. So I don't know, difficulty aside, I think it's a pretty fun fight, but it is a little longer than I would like because you are just repeating the same sequence over and over again.
I want to touch on the raid difficulty thing before we move off of that because okay, so I found this really interesting, this raid, because we were doing sticks. Like the big thing last year is everyone was so mad at Brood Twister. There's some extra reasons for that. Like it was a weak aura. Like it's one of the few bosses where you feel like you're progressing a weak aura than the fight, which really sucks. But then like also it was just like way too hard, but also people were just there. So, they mentioned this in a lot of Blizzard interviews. We talked about this a lot where, that's like part of the issue of the bosses being too hard at that point in the raid is you actually get there. So Styx was even harder than Brood Twister and was 1 boss earlier. And I was like, I remember making a take like after we killed it as well. We killed it. I'm like, yeah, that's just like way too hard for a 4th boss, which I thought would be like a pretty unassailable take. Like that just seems true. And then I remember getting a lot of people mad at me for it because they're like, what do you mean? You're in the race. Bosses are supposed to be hard. You want easy bosses? And I'm like, I'm talking about for everybody else, man. Like, I'm cool with hard bosses, right? But like, basically people weren't at Styx. Dude, if people were at Styx the same level they were at Brood Twister in the first raid, people would have been so mad. So mad. But they weren't. Because Rick Reverb was a decent step up from this, and this was a decent step up from Vexy. So it kind of proved their point of like, not to say the bosses like that should be that hard, but like, if I would have said Brood Twister is way too hard, 100% approval rating, everyone's like, you're exactly right. Right? And then, but in this raid, I said like Styx is too hard, and people weren't actually feeling that because they weren't there. And
Yeah.
that
And
I
they
just
had the
find
correct
fascinating.
take that like Styx should be harder than Rashanan. And it turns out they nerfed Styx into the ground, and it's still harder than Rashanan, and now it's in a good spot, right? And like, but they didn't know that because they weren't fighting it, like you said. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's just a tension between a good difficulty curve for progression rating and a nice couple of easy bosses at the front for people getting a nice easy box, and for like non-cutting edge guilds to still have something they can do that's kind of fun in Mythic. And I don't know how to solve that tension besides just adding more bosses to the raid.
Well,
That are easy gimmies at the start of the raid.
yeah, exactly. Like having more bosses than 8, but that is purely just to add easy ones at the beginning for but like the thing is like Blizzard, the tension is between good progression for Mythic raiding guilds and pugging, but I think Blizzard has kind of shown their hand as far as what they care about that with, right? Because they like the fact that the Mythic lockout operates the way it does, and even in some interviews answering questions about it, shows that they actually do not value Mythic pugging. They want Mythic to be something that is able to be done with like a coordinated group. They want to force you into communicating as a group rather than oh, did my music just randomly? What the fuck? Oh, that was weird. Sorry. They want to force you into like being in a group, just like a lot of WoW elements since it came out have wanted you to communicate and interact with people. That's the point of the game. So until as nice as it was for like the first 4 bosses being a vault last raid, you can kind of admit like you're going to see that Blizzard's not really going to do anything about that.
Right.
Until they make other efforts to show that pugging is something they actually care about. Like right now, I think it's purely the game is not designed for you to pug Mythic basically at all.
Yeah, which is I get it, and I think progression is more important. It's just like I really enjoyed the patches like last patch, or it was Vault of the Incarnates where like 2 out of 8s were super lucrative because you could get the very rares from Aranog and Primal Council, and like also a vault slot, and the vault slot could have very rares in it. And I remember doing so many Mythic pugs in those patches and having a pretty good time with it. But
Yeah.
I do think that the mid-tier Mythic raiding guilds should correctly be a higher prio. I just do think Blizzard could have both if we did just go up to a couple more bosses that were kind of easy, and then like this boss is probably an appropriate maybe 3rd or 4th Mythic boss difficulty where it's actually kind of tough, right? Like you can very easily wipe this boss. The numbers check on it is a lot more substantial than on Vexy. It's up there with like Heroic Gallywix now. Which I think is a good place for that sort of difficulty to be.
I think there's one thing, not to say that this would be S tier without it, but there's one thing immediately disqualifying from this boss being an S tier fight, and that is that the version of this boss where it's in quotes enrage is minutes earlier, but they have significantly less HP. Like basically the boss design is you rotate on each boss like twice rather than more than that or something like that. Like that version of the boss is just more enjoyable. The boss isn't interesting enough for you to want to do it as many times as the fight is forcing you into because of its HP. So that is something that's easily solvable via design. I think they just missed on that. I think otherwise though, very easy to understand. Good use of the new swirlies. Everything on the fight except for the intermission is very visually clear. And then the intermission is kind of the pinnacle of not being visually clear, like it's everything is like really all over the place. The animations are insane, but also I kind of like that Blizzard didn't back down from that. Like they got a ton of feedback from PTR of like, this is insane. Like no one can see anything. If you're like under the boss, like your screen is just going absolutely crazy, and new swirlies help a lot. But like, I think this is when people think about Liberation of Undermine many years from now, I think like the first image that's going to pop into their head actually is this. It is this intermission of the second boss, because visually it just kind of looks really sick,
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to make some sacrifices of gameplay for aesthetics, this is one of the best trade-offs where you can do that, right? Like you're getting a gorilla and a dinosaur fighting in the middle of the room, that is poggers.
Yeah.
Like, great. And yeah, design-wise, it is kind of a shame that they don't actually, like, damage each other. You could imagine a shorter version of the fight where it's, like, part of the enrage is, like, or part of their health bars is actually just, you know, going to be eaten up by them fighting each other, but then, you know, if you get to that 5th clash or whatever, it's going to kill you.
Yeah. Okay, so... so I guess it's this raid's version of a council fight, or like the 2-target amalgamation chamber, like the eye, I guess, and like Sanctum of Domination is like another, like, if you're going to relate fights to this, it's kind of like that fight. Not really council, but like the 2-target swap thing. Where does it compare to those? I think Amalgamation Chamber is a better boss.
It's definitely worse than Amalgamation Chamber. Obviously, it's got the stunning visual side thing of it, where like, if you just are looking at how spectacular the fight is, this is one of the best fights of all time, not just even for where it is in the raid.
Yeah.
But the gameplay of it is definitely not as good as Amalgamation Chamber, and I think, as both of us have flagged, like, the length of the fight is a huge, like, that's costing it a tier and a half or something for me. So I'd put it in like B, A, somewhere in that. I definitely can't put it in S because of that.
Yeah, it's definitely not an S. I would say maybe closer to A, because like it's not as good as Amalgamation Chamber, but I think Amalgamation Chamber is like
yeah, that was S.
It's as close to like a perfect second boss as you can make, or third boss or whatever. Like, it's really, really good early. I feel like it would be a B gameplay wise, but I feel like aesthetics matter, and I feel like that puts it in A.
Works for me, yeah.
Like, the aesthetics are truly top tier. Like if you're gonna say that like maybe one of the most memorable things for most people when thinking about a raid is gonna come from the second boss, that is huge. That's pretty crazy. All right, third guy, Rick Reverb. Okay, this guy ended up being. Well, I mean, this was a 3-heal third boss, kind of out of necessity, at least with the gear we had at the time. We could have 4-healed it like after, you know, getting more Mythic Plus gear. There was so much gearing to be done after this, but I don't know. You soak some stuff. The theme of the boss is crazy. Dude's saying Rick Reverb all the time. I think like for first week, these ads kind of had a lot of HP. Your comp was pretty like, you know, deal with these ads well, but not like super unfair. It was honestly, it felt about the same as Heroic when you were doing that with less gear, which Heroic was also like, this is a really hard Heroic boss, right? Like, you could easily wipe to ads if you didn't fully swap to them, especially with helpers. The intermission's kind of cool. I can't really compare Rick to a lot of bosses though. Like the whole like needing assigned groups to like soak these things. Although I've seen this new strat. Have you seen the like 3 tank? No one clicks the thing.
Yeah, tank does the clickies.
The tank does it. That is, which by the way, that is like the most third boss strat of all time. Like, that totally makes sense. That is like a strat you would do to figure out a mechanic like this on a boss that's that early. 6 pulls for us. I think you could have done it in significantly less. I think Echo did it in like 2 or 3 or something.
A lot of guilds did it in 30 or something though. Like, this is, it's sort of like Forgotten Experiments in that a lot of guilds spent a lot more pulls on this than the World Verse guilds did.
Mm-hmm. That will also be a theme for a later fight.
Yep.
I would say there's one thing about this fight that is immediately pretty disqualifying of a high ranking, and that is
I have one as well.
Oh, I wonder if they'll be the same. So the ad spawns are completely absurd. Like the like the RNG of how easy a pull will be based on where pyrotechnics spawn and how clumped they spawn is very ridiculous. The intermission as well is less RNG. So I know a lot of people think it's random. It is actually like almost perfectly in line with the like how high they are is going to make their order. Like highest first, lowest last going into the intermission. It was a little bugged like that on PTR, and actually has been a little bit bugged on live too. But like you can kind of have the same ones blow up with proper like coordination, but it is like way more coordination than you'd expect for a third boss, which I find that to be kind of inconsistent. Like if you did this fight as a normal guild and every single time after the first intermission, I'll just make this up, but always Star was the one that remained, I think this fight would be a lot better designed. But I don't actually know if that's possible because we literally tried to do that, and sometimes it would just pick another one at the end, even though that one went into the phase with less energy. So, I don't know. I think that is really annoying. What's your disqualifying thing?
Yeah, mine is just barrel ad spawn positioning being variable and being important is super cringe. You could get them stacked up nice and
like, look at this.
under the boss.
Look at this.
You get 2 in Narnia,
Like 2 of them, we spawned on the wall for this exact reason. So you do get better spawns near walls. In fact, the best spawns you can get is in corners. But like having it there for the rest of the fight was really annoying. But like this is just illegal. Like 2 really far ads like this, you lose so much boss damage. Ungrippable. That could have been a DK utility situation, but they didn't do that. I thought faulty zap was kind of a cool mechanic.
Yeah.
Like, that was nice.
Yeah, and we, I don't know if you guys did this. We had a heuristic in my guild. Does you break it, you buy it, which is if you faulty zap on a pylon, you are responsible for immediately taking it down to 0.
Ooh,
Right
that's
away,
actually really
and
smart.
Then, like later on, other people would come in with the assignments.
Yeah, so I'm more of a fan of this boss being the 3rd boss. If it's like you have a tank doing a thing, I actually like your version of it as well, where like that is your thing you're responsible for. But like, look at Shaxx. Look at this weak aura we have for Rick. Now you don't need this. You could YOLO this, but I would just say that like needing or using a basically like Halandris bomb weak aura on. I know some people will hear that word and just immediately get triggered. I'm not saying this boss is hard as Halandris, but like needing a weak aura to kind of like assign groups and have like fixates and focus on or like focuses on certain amplifiers to soak them for consistency is like a lot to ask for a 3rd boss. Kind of insane. I mean, it was way like compared to Sickran, like just way harder boss than Sickran. But I don't know how bad it is. Like, so let me just go through this in my head. So is this an S tier boss? Absolutely not. Ads make it disqualified from S. But I also think it is disqualified from like ass. This boss isn't ass either. It's like what's a boss similar in difficulty that's like kind of early in the raid that is even close to this? It is really unique.
I think maybe Forgotten Experiments is the closest difficulty analog for its placement in the raid.
I kind of agree with that. I think Forgotten Experience is a little harder, by the way. Like just a little harder, but
yeah, that was like a boss 4 for a lot of people, and this is a 3.
So let me just go through this in my head. So I don't think it can be D because the aesthetic is just sick. So that puts it in C, bare minimum. And then I think it would at least lose some points somewhere from being S because the ad spawns are just atrocious. So it's somewhere in between A, B, and C, but it doesn't feel A to me.
I think A would be. This fight has too many problems to be an A.
So I think it's B unless, like, I don't know, unless you think it's C. I'm trying to think of any other annoying...
I think this is another one like Cauldron of Carnage where, like, maybe if you were just judging this, if this was like training dummies and unnamed mechanics, you would give it a C, but the theme is enough to keep it up in B, yeah?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, it's the theme is sick. They definitely nailed it. It's like bass drop when you go into the intermission, the sound cloud and shit. Like they were cooking for sure, as they did with most things. Also, something we haven't really mentioned, but I love the gear, the names on the items for loot this tier. They just went all the way in, you know. Very cool. All right, let's go to sticks. So
all right, so now we got to clarify: are we talking about the Race to World First versions of these fights? Are we talking about the post-nerf versions? Are we doing both?
Like, think about what we did before. Like, when we judged Brood Twister last year, what did we do? Was it like...
I think we took off points for how bad it was, but it was bad for longer than it should have been. Whereas Styx, I think you can make a pretty good argument, has gotten promptly nerfed.
Okay,
maybe sufficiently. Maybe another one's coming in a couple weeks, something.
Maybe forgetting about nerfs for a second, like how hard the boss was. How do you think, like, do you think running around in the... like doing the junk mechanic in general is a fun mechanic, is a good mechanic? Like that is an enjoyable raid boss mechanic to be rolling around and have, like, get medium, get big, roll over these things, roll over this ad. What do you think?
I like it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't get to do it because
you're the non.
Fight, so
okay, that's interesting.
I'm just sitting there, but I was doing it for Summon Progression, so, and I thought it was actually really fun to do that job. Especially because I often had the like set that was in the wall with the crabs, and so it was genuinely quite hard, and rewarding to do well. But
yeah, I mean,
it's a weird mechanic because it's like it's genuinely quite hard. It's not World of Warcraft, right? You're not pushing your buttons. It's like you're steering a slow turn radius vehicle. So there are people that are just not going to be as good at that, and it's very important. And you don't get it very often as well. And you could conceivably not get it for like 30 pulls and then get it for 3 pulls in a row in the middle of progression. And just like, it's one of these bosses where your guild's progression experience here is going to be heavily based on like how much the people that are having the hardest time learning this mechanic get to practice it.
Yep.
And that you can just get very unlucky with that, and that sucks.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing. I want to say they did a pretty good job with the junk mechanic, because like anytime people aren't playing their characters, like a bad version of this is like the ducks on Council of Dreams.
Yeah.
You're not rewarded for that in any way. You just feel like you were punished by getting picked. At least in this boss, when you hit the boss, you just do a shitload of damage. So like if you care about doing damn right, outside of it is pretty nice. Now, if you're a log person, I think logs probably remove that damage, so then you just feel like you got unlucky. That's always a small thing, although I think a pretty small percentage of raiders are at that level of caring about that.
I do think that when Details took this off of Details, I think that the approval rating of getting targeted probably went down by
A ton, yeah. People care way about
chunk.
Yeah, most players
Yeah.
care way more about Details than they do looking at logs. If they're just like at the end of the boss, you just like see the damage, move on to the next one kind of thing. So that's like if they gave you like a damage amp when you came out of it, I think that might have just been a slightly better solution maybe, because like you're more likely to have your CDs up, you're just AFK for a while, right? But then getting picked at the right time with the damage amp could be a thing, you know. The kick requirement here I think is pretty extreme. Like the 4 mobs with 15 nameplates, and if the cast goes off, someone's like definitely gonna get shit on. Like that I thought was pretty aggressive for this boss. I have a question actually, maybe before we talk about where it should be in the raid. Do you think Blizzard intended this to be the 4th or the 5th boss?
Yeah, I mean, in the Dungeon Journal, it's 4th, and Sprocketmonger has, I think, a more mythic design to it. So I think this was intended to be 4th. But
I'm not sure.
I do think that it probably was 5th on pre-nerf versions. And actually, I think there's a decent chance that it is the 5th hardest for most guilds now, because like it should be the 5th boss now for most guilds,
they
'cause
nerfed Sprocketmonger significantly.
they nerfed Sprocket by so much, and the number.
It's hard
Sprocket is
to-
so much solved by the gear that's coming up, and
it's very repeatable, and like this boss is like no matter how much it's nerfed, you just basically have to get the right people in balls a certain amount of times before you're realistically going to kill it. That's still the case. So like that's something that a boss nerf is unlikely to solve. Well, like I guess they could, but they would have to giga nuke the fight.
I mean, one thing they did was they took 4 seconds off of the recycler cast time, and that helps a lot. Where now you can realistically back up a recycler that's going off.
Yeah. Okay. So immediately disqualified from S tier. And then we
I think we're pretty far from S tier on this one, because
what puts it out of D?
It's just so many hard parts of this fight is the thing, right? Like you have a comp requirement that if you don't meet the comp requirement, this fight gets a lot harder. Even post nerf, like you're trying to do this fight with 2 Moonkins and 2 Shadow Priests versus 0 and 0, you're going to have a very different experience because it is important that you dislodge the crabs quickly, that you kill them quickly, that you group them up under the boss quickly. It's important that you land the kick on the Scrapmasters quickly. It's important that all the ball rollers do their job properly. It's important that your tank is moving the boss well. It's important that you're not burning too much fire. All of these are like simultaneously important for a boss this early in the raid.
Oh yeah.
Like compare that to most bosses in this spot in the raid, where it's like, okay, maybe there's 2 things that you need to do right or they'll wipe you. On this boss, there's like 5 things that you need to do right or they'll wipe you, and they all ask you to like be thinking about different things and optimizing in different directions from each other. I think that is just a difficulty texture that is inappropriate for this kind of boss. Like this should go 3rd to last boss, 2nd to last boss should have that kind of statement be true about it.
Yep, I agree with everything you just said. I will say on the comp diversity thing though, I think them making a fight where Moonkins are valuable. Okay, so like with how niche this game is right now, and like this raid is the most ever really, or at least in a very long time, where like they clearly designed bosses for certain things to succeed, and there was a lot of different variants of that. If Moonkins didn't have a boss that they were sick on, and this is the exact kind of fight that Moonkin is designed to be good at, they would be maybe in competition for the worst a class can possibly be in a raid. In this raid, if Styx didn't exist, Moonkins are fucking terrible. Like they lose to Pro Warriors on boss damage. Like unironically, it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
And that I feel like is almost like a plus. Like I feel like you could say it like requires a shitty comp, which is true and unfair, but at the same time, if it didn't require that shitty comp, then it would be an almost even bigger offense that there was a class in this raid like Moonkin that existed, and it wouldn't have been good other than this. But then there's other classes, I guess. Well, DK's been doing a little bit better now, but like I guess that were just bad anyway. I don't know. I fucking pogged for a 4th boss skill. I couldn't believe that. You killed this after the enrage too. Like that's just like absolutely insane. Just running around kiting it. Is it at the bottom? Is Styx as bad as a 4th boss could be? But we're also ranking this low because of it's the 4th boss too. But I mean, that's what you have to do. We're ranking this for where every boss is in the raid, right? It's D probably.
Yeah, I could see it being C. I wouldn't want to go any higher than C.
Well, then I think C just comes down to like, is the ball mechanic enjoyable? And it's okay. So here's another thing: would the ball mechanic have been enjoyable if you kill this boss in 30 pulls? But it then the exact same mechanic exists, but doing it 100 times is not fun. You know, like it's just literally a how long can you do this gimmick before it's not fun challenge? You know, I don't know. I'm okay with D. I think.
Yeah, I think it has to. I'll say this is D with the caveat that like it's definitely going to be. Some people are going to enjoy this. More people are going to enjoy this fight than enjoy most Ds.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. No, I think it's C because like the tanks moving around and burning trash version of area denial is fun. If you like fuck up, you have more area denial, so there's like a reason for a spread mechanic to matter, which is kind of rare. Like it has, I don't know, at the end of a fight, you have the choice of like sending all the balls into the boss instead of breaking bombs for like a burn, and you can make that choice based on like the percentage of the HP. You can kill the boss like far after with just 4 balls alive. I've seen that in Heroic a few times. I think this totally depends on when the person gets to it. I don't know, man, I'm so undecided. Maybe D.
I don't know. I mean,
fuck it.
I do think that they have swiftly and largely nerfed this fight, which was very important, and they probably still need to do more of that as well. This boss is also going to get the award for like farm boss that randomly costs you 10 pulls during farm.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, that's so not fun.
Yeah.
And oh, dude, okay. Someone in chat said if this boss isn't a D, then no boss in history is a D. Let's back the fuck up for a second.
Yeah, hang on.
Because that is just not what you just said is so not true. There are bosses that have existed not even in like its recent memory that are significantly worse than Styx for their position in the raid, right? That is not true at all. Dude, that guy saying that makes me not want to put this in the bottom tier because there are bosses that are 10 times worse than this. But it's the 4th boss. Fuck, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna pick one random person in chat. Here we go. Finding a name. TZODK. What's the rank for this fight?
Wait.
What?
Tizo. Oh, shout out Tizo. That's my buddy.
That's your buddy? All right, Tizo, give us the ranking, buddy. Come on. You guys are all typing your rankings. I do not want to hear from you. He said D. All right, W. Cool. Moving on to Sprocketmonger. So this also kind of depends on when you did it. I think Sprocketmonger is maybe like 2nd or 3rd or 4th or 5th. It's somewhere in the high rankings of bosses that are a completely different experience based on when you did it, with number 1 probably being Halandris, right? Like if you did Halandris in the first 3 weeks with 10-second bombs, and then you did Halandris with 30-second bombs, like you just did a completely different fight,
It's up
right?
there with like 3-second seeds on Tindril, 10-second bombs on Halandris, doing the 8 seed set on Fireack, Anduin before it got nerfed 700 times, right? Like, this is one of those bosses that was just a fundamentally different experience for those of us that killed it in the first 2 weeks, which is not a lot of people.
Well, okay, I would almost even say
at all.
that could even buff its value, though. Like, I think this is an example of them having a boss's intended difficulty for the people that want it to be that hard and then nerfing it at a pretty correct time for everyone else. So, like, I think most people, when they get to Sprocketmonger, are say this is going to be an S tier fight, 'cause it's kind of fun to do. It's repeatable. It's easy to learn. It's not always the same every pull. Your polarity will be different. Which mine you're soaking will be different. All of those things. But like, you're going to kill it before it gets super, super annoying. And I think if people did the Race to World First version of this, of like having to do all of the last phase, even though Gear would have nerfed some of that, I think it would feel unfair. Like the old ball mechanic in the last phase, genuinely insane. Like super fucking hard. Like the almost exponential difficulty increase, honestly. And like it's kind of rare for that to happen. Like in the race, the first 2 phases difficulty, I'm just gonna make this up, are like a 6 out of 10 for a mythic boss. Now, obviously, a 5th mythic boss, for example, probably isn't supposed to get to a 10 out of 10, right? But like the last phase is like a 9 out of 10 when you're just in that phase. Straight up. Like the last phase is fucking crazy. The healing requirement, the like dodge requirement is it's like the players in these guilds are very good, right? And like it was very rare you'd get through a pole with no balls hit. Impossibly hard, right? So that much was like that. And so when did you kill this boss?
We were the last guild to kill it pre-nerf.
Okay, so you
world 12th. So
okay, well, what is your opinion of this boss then? Because I think you are probably like the perfect person to answer this, because I think someone after the nerfs is gonna have a totally different take. But you were like, you still did it in the like really really difficult.
We did the whole fight, like all 3 sets of balls. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those fights where you're doing it and you just know like this is a crazy level of difficulty. I think there's a strong argument that this is harder than everything except for like P2 Muggsy in the rest of the raid.
Okay.
Which is crazy for that spot. But again, they nerfed it quickly. And I think the crucial difference with this and Styx, like Styx is still the same fight after it's been nerfed, in the sense of like the same stuff is still hard. It's just less hard, right? Whereas with Sprocketmonger, the difficulty of the fight has completely shifted post-nerf, and it is no longer a fight about surviving these 3 absolutely nuclear difficulty Void Orb sections, and it's now a fight about killing the boss before you have to deal with at least 2 of those 3.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I don't think that's a good design for a boss, I will say. Like, you've just got a boss in the raid, and it's like, yeah, there's this, really hard end bit, but you just skip that, right? Like, that sounds like a deep farm end boss type thing, where it's like, okay, we are 4 months into the tier, so our strategy for Ansarek is to skip, the last 2 actions.
Yeah, but it was in week 3. Right.
Right, exactly. So like week 3, they took this part out of the fight. Did that do good things for its difficulty and make it appropriate for where it is in the tier? Sure, but also like just like a fundamental part of the design of the fight is not there now.
Yeah.
So I'm conflicted on that, because I think it'll be pretty fun. I think most people doing this fight, it's sandwiched between 2 bosses. I think they're going to have a lot less fun progressing. Like, I think this is going to be a fun boss to prog. And it probably won't overstay its welcome for many guilds either. It's probably not going to be one of those bosses where you're still pulling it past the point of feeling like you're having a good time or like learning. I'm sure there will be some guilds where that's true, but I think it's going to do pretty well by that metric. So I think people are going to enjoy doing it. But I will say I'm very glad to have gotten the chance to do the pre-nerf version. Like, that was a really fun fight. It was
I think
definitely cool.
a couple of individual things I want to point out about this fight. So number one, I think the polarization mechanic, the Silk and Court mechanic, was done really well and really fair for a 5th boss, right? I think that is, the whole red, blue, and swapping is not hard to understand. And it was not super punishing if you... Actually, I don't know.
It was pretty fucking punishing.
I was about to say it's like not as punishing as Silken Court, but like in Silken Court, you basically wiped if any 2 people touched each other. That's kind of true on this fight too, right?
Well,
like,
it depended on the context. Like, there were a lot of cases where 2 people could like be out of the raid and run into each other, and it was fine. But yeah, like if you had we called them a bowling ball incident, where somebody just comes through the middle of the other team and gets a strike, right? Like, that is a 100% of the time going to wipe you.
That's going to wipe you, yeah.
Situation, yeah.
Also, another thing, I thought the drill mechanic on this fight was a excellent ranged mechanic. Like, there's been mechanics that only range can get and melee don't get. They do a lot of these. This was just a really, really cool one. And for a couple reasons. Number one, you don't have to be ready for it every time. So it has like a 90-second like lockout on you getting picked, so you know you're only getting it once per phase. And after the first phase, you kind of know at which point in each phase you're going to get it with a reasonable amount of range DPS. And that's like super, super nice. And I think like not hard to deal with. I thought this strategy around where you wanted to put them was actually pretty nice. Like, they last for a really long time. So like it does matter where you put them, but it's also not annoying for range to get to the spots where they matter. I also say that another interesting thing about this is melee. This is a pretty easy melee fight I think like ranged is significantly more challenging here. Melee kind of hit the boss and just do relatively easy mind soaks too. Like the times you do melee, this is like, oh, this is kind of easy. They'll just do them here. So like that's another thing. But like you need a certain amount of range though. So the problem with fights where melee is way easier than ranged is that you want to bring just like a million melee and no ranged. But if you did that, then melee start getting drills, and then that's just like unbelievably dog shit, right? So then it makes melee not the easy thing. So I thought they kind of handled that well. I thought the intermission, this is maybe gonna, I don't know how this is gonna come off actually, but I thought the intermission was actually like really like too easy. Like I feel like they could have made it like a little more interesting with the dodges, but maybe the rest of the fight is so hard that the intermission being like a break is kind of okay and nice, but like the healing requirement and the dodging and everything is just like insanely easy. I thought maybe they could do some more with like the inventions there maybe. And how do you feel about the weak aura element of this? This is a fight where you can make the argument that like you kind of need a weak aura to kill this. It's actually pretty rare with WoW bosses. I think people make the argument a lot that like you need weak auras to kill a fight. Most of the time someone is saying that, they're making that up. But this is one of the times where I believe that is true. But at the same time, it's not a fight that is defined by progressing a weak aura. Like Brood Twister. Like Brood Twister is a fight that you could not kill without a weak aura, but also the weak aura is the most frustrating thing about the fight. It's the same thing with Echo of Neltharion. This fight is very weak aura. Like weak auras are like borderline required. Like having to calm the mind soaks would be so annoying and clutter and make the fight so much harder. But at the same time, the weak auras aren't frustrating. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, we never had any problems with weak auras on this fight where, like, the thing that is hard is getting assigned to do a weird soak that you're unfamiliar with, right? And that's, like, not a weak aura problem. That's those players kind of under... Because it's the same people generally get assigned it, right? It's like, oh, our mages have to go far here, our priests have to go far here, right?
Yeah, but then
and
you
like,
can get a 1 in
like,
100 pull where it's
Right.
just... It's so fucking weird that you have to have...
But that's not, like, so much of a weak aura thing. That's just, like, a boss RNG thing.
Yep.
Like if you didn't have a weak aura, you'd be turbo fucked there because you'd be sending what you would be solving this without a weak aura is you'd be sending like 4 players there and you'd just be hoping you get one of each color and then one pull you wouldn't and you'd be like, oh, okay, GN, go next.
Yeah, that's actually so I think it was when we were doing this on testing, we were calming it because we didn't have like a working weak aura for this on Mythic testing. So we were just calming the mind soaks. Also to like have an exact soak is really hard because you don't know when they're going to spawn on Mythic, right? But like on testing. But we were calming it and I was trying to get the same people included every time. And by doing that, we actually had a testing poll where due to pure RNG, the boss did not bug out at all. We actually just had 0 people eligible to soak one on the... Oh, there was also an extra mindset in Mythic, so that's probably why that was the case. So I think
Yeah, there's 4 in that instead of 3.
Exactly.
And there were 3 on Heroic instead of 2, so Heroic was pre-Mythic.
Yeah, exactly. So you could have on Mythic testing, you basically could literally wipe to RNG. Like the last polarization of the fight could leave you with less than 2 people and 2 minds to soak, which could only be... I mean, actually, I'm pretty sure you just wiped to that. No one can soak it without blowing it up.
Yeah, they could have made code to make that not possible by just having the polarization always give at least 2 people that are not debuffed.
That sounds like
each color,
something
but-
that is infinitely harder to figure out than just
Yeah.
removing a mindset, which is exactly what they did.
That's
So
right.
that is
Yeah.
probably how they did it. Okay, so anyways, enough Sprocketmonger yapping. I think... Okay, so if difficulty... Is this boss in its initial form too hard for a 5th boss? The answer to that is definitely yes. Like, for example, people said Brood Twister is too hard, right? That was a big thing. This boss, way harder than Brood Twister. Like, infinitely harder than Brood Twister. So, if you're going to make that argument about Brood Twister, you'd have to make it here. Same spot in the raid and everything. That being said, I don't know how much that mattered because there wasn't Rashinan this tier. So people, like, dude, if the first 4 bosses of this raid were Nerebar Palace and then you got to Sprocketmonger, people would be cursing this boss's name. That's all I'm saying. So that is a thing that matters to people. I enjoyed this fight. You enjoyed this fight, killing it pre-nerf. I think people killing it post-nerf. I'm interested to hear if people are kind of like uninterested. I think maybe even just progressing this boss to the last phase and killing it isn't going to be something you dislike.
Yeah, I think people are gonna... I think genuinely most guilds are gonna reach this boss at the perfect time for them, and it's gonna be a fun experience for everybody. So I think it does really well, which is, again, is weird because
It's so weird.
Design-wise, it's like it very clearly missed on how hard it was supposed to be and like what the difficulty of the fight is supposed to be. Where it's like the void stuff was way too hard in the first few weeks, and it's now not enough of the difficulty now because you just skip it. But like, yeah, it's good. They got there in the end, even though it was kind of a circuitous path to the boss being great.
Okay, so if we end up putting this in S, is that more of an indictment on how easy the first 4 bosses were in Nerebar Palace, or is it an indictment on how bad Brood Twister was to play for most people? Because like, I'm trying to do this in my head. If you put Sprockamonger as the 5th boss in place of Brood Twister last raid, I just know for an absolute fact that people are not typing S in the chat right now. You know, so like,
yeah, I mean, it's both, right? Like the difficulty and how it's difficult, right? Like why it's difficult, both are really
yeah.
important.
Brood Twister is a worse boss than Sprockamonger,
right?
But that is not purely how people rate. They rate them based on their experiences, and the experience those people would have had on Sprockamonger with the first 4 bosses being as easy as those 4 in Nerebar Palace would have been completely unfair. I'm on this boss at the same time as Liquid. Why is this happening, right? So even if the boss is like really well tuned, a lot of the friction and stress from that comes from the fact that you are doing a boss that is too hard for you and you're wasting your time. That is while Brood Twister sucked, that was the main problem with Brood Twister.
Yeah.
So,
but this didn't have that because, and we can't rate these bosses in a vacuum, right? Like it's impossible to ignore the fact that if you reach a boss too early, it's bad. If you reach a boss too late, it's also bad, right? Like those matter for how a boss is. They exist in the context of what's around them.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I mean, I think we could put it in S, but then it's weird because you'd have to just like in your mind rate Vexy, Cauldron of Carnage, and everything a little higher because that's the only reason this is an S. But that's just kind of fascinating. Do you think S?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a great boss.
Yeah. Also,
I think this is one of the ones where you're going to look back and be like, yeah, that was banger.
The name fucking hits too. Crazy ass name. All right, on to the One-Armed Bandit. So this boss is fascinating to me. I looked at this earlier in the stream. We had to come up with the strat for this, which is always going to take a few more pulls on any boss, or potentially a lot. And we killed this in 59 pulls. And for the last 30 of those, I wanted to die in real life. I was very mad that it did not die. Echo took, I think, a few more pulls than we did. And they also spent some pulls at the end of week 1 figuring out this. So their pull count was also inflated. By like figuring the boss out. Okay. And then usually when bosses like that exist, especially bosses like this that are so massively nerfed by... Oh, 1 second. We'll have to wait for the dogs to stop barking. This is good. This is going to give me time to find my my stats.
If this
here.
part is still in the YouTube video, Frank is a bad editor.
Yep. Okay, so I was looking at some pull counts for the first couple bosses. Or for whatever this boss is called. So we saw that. So I told you 59 or so from us, 61 from Echo. And then I looked at Method, so now I'm going to look at a bunch of guilds that just progressed One-Armed Bandit with the full strat information. 100 pulls, so double from Method. The guilds after that, Chinese guild, they spent a lot. It was like hundreds of pulls, but I'm just going to skip that. Instant Dollars, insane guild. Raids low amounts of hours, usually crazy good pull counts. 100 pulls, basically. 90 pulls on One-Armed Bandit with more gear, with a reset. And some of these guilds that I'm going to be getting into with a 3% raid buff as well. Synergy, One-Armed Bandit. Now, keep in mind, there's a big comp requirement on this fight. I want to point out that every guild I've mentioned so far, and I'm going to mention in this, has the exact comp that we had, or better, right? We're looking at 4 Shadow Priest here, double Windwalker, Daughters, right? They're fucking chilling. They have what you need. 172 pulls for that guild. Even all the way down, I'll skip a few, but I'll just go back down to you guys. You guys just killed it, right?
Yeah.
A couple weeks later, you guys kill One-Armed Bandit in 120. You're getting pretty good progress on Muggsy. Something that I didn't mention here is a lot of guilds that I mentioned have actually killed Muggsy faster and with less pulls than they took on One-Armed Bandit. That was true for most of the guilds that I just spoke about. What is it about One-Armed Bandit? You've done and killed the boss now. What? And these are all, there's no comp restriction, at least with a lot of those early guilds I just said.
It's with more gear. It's a fight that should be nerfed with gear, right? It's just every part of this boss gets easier with eye level. Ads die faster with bad spawns. The check in the last phase is easier. People don't get one shot by fire with more HP. Like every part of this is not Silken Court. Every part about this boss is easier. What is it about this boss that has been significantly more challenging? And I want to say historical. I don't think there's any boss that I can remember in the middle of the raid like this where we are doing the Race World First guilds that had to come up with a strat are doing this in half or less the amount of pulls as like almost every other sick guild with full strat and better gear on. Like, what is it about this fight?
Yeah. So there were a lot of things about this. Your feelings towards the end of your prog, I can relate to as well towards the end of mine. So we had a wipe at 8 million HP, and then we killed it like 30 pulls later, and those 30 pulls might have been the worst day of my life. Like it was absolutely tragic after that point. So there were a couple of things that I think explain some of this, and I'm gonna try and not come off as like coping, because in my heart of hearts, I feel like we played pretty bad on this fight, and I don't want to make excuses to avoid that being it. But the fact that so many guilds have had that experience, it kind of reminds me of like Magmarax, where it's like, okay, if everybody feels like they play bad on this fight, maybe there's something to it that is different than that. I think the fire tornadoes are like sleeper, the most difficult thing about this fight, because they're just like everywhere. They're coming from weird ass directions. They basically one-shot you, but they like aren't super visible. The coins are also not very visible, especially in a raid about visual clarity. The fact that the coin line animation is short and then goes away before the coin goes through it makes it a lot harder than, otherwise would be, than other similar mechanics in this raid. So it's very easy to get hit by either of those. So the comp restriction is an interesting one, because you're right that most guilds doing this have access to the same number of like Shadow Priests or Aflocks or Windwalkers as you guys did. But in a lot of cases, it's like more ugly hot swaps. So
I see.
If you look at like a lot of guilds' 3rd and 4th Shadow Priests on this boss, it's going to be like, our healer is playing Shadow on this fight, or we've geared a 655 Shadow Priest.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so like that, it's better than whatever they would otherwise be playing, but it's maybe 80% as good as a main Shadow Priest would be. So I think that is part of it, because a Shadow Priest is basically like 1.5 people on this fight. It's really, really good. And so you need to make some sacrifices to get them in your raid, but if they're not great Shadow Priests with great gear, then you're losing some of that value back. And even with the 3% buff, I think you're going to see some of that. So I think those are my main.
I think there's another one I'm looking at too.
diagnoses.
So do people do our strat where they just have your BM Hunter player do all the coins?
Yeah.
So I
That's
think
what we did, at least.
I think there's probably going to be a lot of variance in that. So Mark did this really, really well, but that job is actually really, really hard.
Yeah.
And
that was fine for us though. Like that wasn't at all part of our problem. Our hunter's really good and did that great.
Okay, well maybe if everyone's hunter did it great, then maybe it's not a thing. But like,
yeah, but not every guild. I'm sure there are guilds.
Like
that will
sometimes
do
you have to
because of
do
that.
this. I'm actually showing it on the PV right now, where he has to shoot a coin into this middle ad here, and all the ranged are there. If with no communication and you just send that coin in that close during the pay lines, 2 people are dead, right?
Oh,
but
we have a weak aura for that. We made one that is like it says coin from behind when that cast, because you can detect the cast, and then
yeah, exactly. So Mark would just say like ranged, there's a close coin, and then everyone's on like high alert. So I think like, or having a weak aura like that, or having some kind of comms like helps a lot. It's also a really hard healing fight. Not only comp, but just purely knowing when to heal at the right times. Like when you look at like a a regular healer that can just do a lot of HPS, it's about doing the right HPS at the right time on this fight. It's very burst healing centric. There's a lot of comps that could do this, but it would require a different setup for each one to like actually have the healing you need at the right times. There are healing absorbs that are harder than others, obviously. And there's also spell queuing. If you don't consistently dunk at the right time, you're going to like get things at a different time. Like we always dunked at the exact same time on every single wave, so we always had the same timers. But like we've dunked early sometimes, and then big hits will happen before or after, and now pay lines are different for the rest of the fight. It's very like Stone Legion generals in that way. And then on top of all of that, something we haven't mentioned is, and this is maybe just extremely on brand, but this fight that is a literal slot machine is very RNG. It is like you getting like left and middle or right and middle over and over again versus hard left and hard right your boss damage, again, boss damage isn't like a huge thing here, but even just the ability to kill the ads is significantly more challenging.
True. Yeah, you definitely won't be able to kill this boss until you can handle getting the split set every time, but your first like 50 pulls of progression, that's not going to be true.
Like, I think if we had to do this with one reset less of gear, I think the RNG on these ads would be
Yeah.
hair pulling out maddening. Like, you would literally wipe to bad RNG, which you had enough gear to like outplay it in this week, which was like in the week we killed it, which was kind of nice, but without that it would have been insanely hard. What is the feeling of people after they've killed this? When you kill one armed bandit, are you like, holy shit, I'm glad this is over? Or is it like, I enjoyed my time on this fight? Obviously it sounds like your guild, you felt like you didn't play well, so anytime that's the case, no one's happy. But what do you think, or what do people in chat like? What's your experience if you've killed this boss? Is it just like, man, that wasn't fun?
Yeah, I definitely at least had more of the like relief it's dead rather than happy it's dead feeling. So that's never a good sign. But again, that might be based on just performance rather than the fight.
Yeah, it's
I
kind
will
of.
say this was also like re-clearing this boss took us like 7 pulls or something, and we were kind of sad about that. But then we looked at some other guilds, and there's like 30 pull re-clears of this thing happening, which like, ooh,
Yeah, it's just kind of chaotic.
that's tough.
I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
like I mean, because you never have it like on hard farm, really. Or I guess you will, but like you can kill this boss well before you have it on hard farm because of that RNG.
you know what's usually true about bosses that are hard to re-kill? It's actually where fights where the hardest part of the fight is at the end.
Yeah,
because like
you
it
might
takes you
just
so
randomly kill
long.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this fight is different. Like the last phase is fucking easy. Like it's like really easy. So it's almost like if you get to the last phase, you're chilling. But just getting to the last phase is the hard part. Also, this historic dot class requirement. The last boss that I can remember that stacked dot classes like this was in BFA, and that was when that was normal. And BFA was normal. There was a boss every tier in BFA where it was like, oh, this is the dot class fight. That has not been the case for many years. And this fight kind of brought that back. This raid,
You can see
maybe.
why they nerfed all the dot classes, and now maybe they're regretting buffing them back up.
Yeah, dots are back for the first time ever, and now you're bringing 5 or 6 dot classes to a fight where it pertains to it, because that was the reason they nerfed them in the first place. It was impossible to balance that. But yeah, this is I don't know. I think okay. So there's some parts of the fight that we're kind of looking over here, as far as like talking about its quality, which again, very much like Lihivam and Gallywix when we talk about it, this is something that maybe only like literally me or Echo had fun doing, but like there's a lot of potential options on this fight that are really interesting. Doing things at different times, doing different orders, getting mechanics. It's a build-a-boss, right? You can do everything when you want it. You can kind of have the room look however you want to do it. Like we did it like this, but you could have one side of the room completely covered and the other side completely open. Like you could do, there's so many things you could do here. And that in alone is great boss design and very, very cool. But it's a weird thing in the game where just because of streaming and guides and everything and everyone wanting to do the boss as fast as possible, that like only a couple people actually get to agree with that or get to deal with that. So I would always rate this boss a little bit higher because that process was really fun, but almost no one else goes through it. I imagine when most people get to this boss, there's probably zero discussion about what order you're doing, right? You're doing the order. But finding out the order was really fun.
Yeah, to some extent, there's some like learning why you're doing that order that you get from Frog, where it's like you make a mistake and you realize like, oh, that's why they do that.
Yeah. Also, there's another thing. This might be a thing that would remove this thing's ranking in farm, but at least this is what happened to us on testing, and I believe happened to us in our reclear. If you push the boss before the 6th set and you don't get the shock and flame pillar, it just like puts it in the middle of the room in the last phase. So like the last phase becomes nuclear hard because you're just doing it right next to the fire thing. You have to deal with them going in and out right next to you. Where we place it here, do you see these? These are coming from the fire pillar. They don't even get to the raid. The mechanic's completely removed from the encounter, right? But then when you have to start dodging not only fire in general, but double the amount because it will return, the margin for error in the phase goes, it's way harder, right? What are your thoughts? Where are you at? You just killed this guy.
Yeah. I don't.
So, question for chat. Has anyone
don't
killed this boss
enjoy
and been happy about it? Has anyone killed this boss and was like, wow, we owned One Arm Bandit. This was great. Moving on to Muggsy. I feel like everyone had the Magmar Axe thing. Like, everyone got like low on this boss and you're like, okay, it's dead now. We know how the fight works. And then it just takes forever to kill it and you want to die. Like that seems to be consistent across basically every class or every kill. Sorry, I cut you off there. Continue.
No, no, no.
your thoughts.
It's a great question. Like I feel like it's going to be a very common unsatisfying kill. I think this is a fight that needs some quality of life nerfs fast to avoid that fate. Because they could fix this.
What are the nerfs?
So the coin line visual is now long, like it goes its entire duration, and it stays there until the coin has rolled over it. So you see where the coin's going. The fire tornadoes should just get straight up nerfed. Probably like nerf it down to 4 that shoot out and just left, right.
Well,
back,
you have two
forward.
choices. You have two choices with fire. You either reduce the amount that's spawning, or you make it not lethal.
Yeah. And then the ad spawn RNG should get absolutely destroyed as well. Like they should just have set spawns for each ad. It's okay if if it makes it so that it's always a split set as well. If it
But you know
as
it's
long
happening.
as you know that's coming. Yeah. And then
yeah.
they don't do it for everyone. Like they should just look at they should look at the strat that everybody's doing on it, and then they should make it so that is like doable and maybe gives you one hard split set or two, and then but it's like at a reliable time and you know when it's coming.
I think something that a lot of guilds, I don't actually know this because I haven't progressed with a lot of other guilds on this or any other guilds like I have in the past, but you really want to kill the ads as fast as possible, even the ones that are not. It's like Withering Flames debuff does a ton of damage, and a lot of times what I'll see is like I'll watch a guild on this boss, they're going to kick the cast halfway through.
Oh, yeah, you got to kick late. It's cringe.
Yeah, you got to kick late because or else it'll get the Withering Flames off. And you also like want to hard burn. Like let's say this Flame Reel Assistant right here is not the one you're supposed to kill, but it's at 20%, it's just finished its cast and everyone's moving to the right side of the room. You should actually just like fully kill this middle ad if it's that low and broken, just so you don't get a Withering Flame debuff. And you're having just with like a good setup, you're going to stop damage at the end of this before P2 anyway, with the gear and the raid buff you have now. So you might as well just a little tip to everyone, just fully swap to assistants basically, including melee, because you just simply don't need the boss damage, and make sure you get as little Withering Flames cast as possible. It will skyrocket your progression to the last phase and your consistency. So it's barred from S tier, cannot be S tier. Too much RNG. I think it's barred from D tier because it's just a fucking slot machine and it's really cool. Had a lot of cool decisions to be made. It's somewhere in the A, C, and B range, or A, B, and C range. It doesn't feel like an A to me. It didn't have like the Race to World First Sludge Fist damage optimization. Really, no one actually. I mean, no one did that, right? Like, no one's gonna.
This should be the difficulty on this fight should have been more loaded into phase 2, so that you actually got that like, oh my god, we're actually gonna kill it during the explosive jackpot feeling.
Yeah, like you have on Muggsy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I want to put this in C. Like, you can't have a boss that everybody hates killing be.
Dude, I'm actually so true. So true. Like, I just want a single example. I want to know, because I've looked at pull counts, and the pull counts almost all look like this. Oh, we're going to kill it now. Nope. They all look like that. But that also just means the boss is, like, sneakily harder. I think what really causes frustration on bosses like this is I think everyone's happy with progression as long as you feel like you as a group are learning and getting better. But what can happen on bosses where you get a really low pull early in progression, especially a fight that's this random, is you can start to trick yourself that you're farther ahead on the boss than you think.
Right.
Like, basically, when you have this pull at 8%, you're, like, starting to think, like, oh, we can probably kill this soon. But there's actually a lot of stuff around, like, 80 to 30% that has not been ironed out and gotten in stone yet because you got really lucky. And then you start getting depressed because you think you're regressing, but in reality, you just progressed randomly faster than you have. In fact, a good video I can do in the future is pointing out there's not many bosses like this, actually, where it's even possible for this to happen, but there are plenty in history that I can remember where it's like every guild basically tricks themselves into thinking they're farther than they are, and then they're just super depressed. This happened. I'm not saying we're above that. This happened to me, this raid. Like, I tricked myself the same way that everyone else would do it into getting very mad, which was not good. But like, this is just classic one of those encounters. You can even just see it in your pulls here. Like, look, from pull 60 to 120, you basically were in the last phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total times in 60 pulls. That alone shows you that the first 70% of the encounter is fucking crazy hard, or random or whatever. C, I'm down, hard down. let's see, what do we got next? Old Muggsy. You are currently progressing, Muggsy, yep.
That's right.
Muggsy has gone through a lot of iteration. I'm not even gonna. I'm just gonna let you guys know this. Okay, guys, the boss that Muggsy was the day before, or like the week before we tested this on Mythic, was every single time someone goes to the Earth side of the room, they get a 6-second debuff, and at the end of that, it spawns a tornado that sucks everyone in the raid into the tornado. It's like a little small suck, and you could do like multiple at a time, and obviously you'd be getting 20 of those every 2 minutes, and then to go on the other side, to go on the metal side, you got a debuff that like basically if you dispelled it at the same level as anyone else in the raid, it would instantly kill everyone. So the idea is you soak a bomb, you're airborne, you get dispelled, and then now it doesn't kill anyone, and you have to do that 20 times every single phase. So like this boss has been in the cooker for a while. Like they've been hard cooking here. And what they came up with I think was cool. Like the general idea of the fight, even from testing, was like we want to have each phase like I think the theme is cool, right? This is this ogre with 2 heads, each with different personalities, and the room is like that as well. Each one of them has different mechanics, and those mechanics interact with each other in a cool way. I think that part of it they got right. I think like that the fight does feel that way. You need the finger guns to kill the shockers, and how you swap sides of the room I think feels really good. Just like looking at P1, I think a lot of the way the fight's general design is supposed to work ends up being pretty nice. First of all, like any thoughts about that before we move on to like the specific stuff?
Yeah, I think the cadence of the fight, the idea behind it is definitely strong. I think they cooked well from the initial versions of the fight. But yeah, I think there's a big mechanical nitpick that we are both going to have with this that is holding it back.
So that's the jails. The jails are like the mine mechanic even is cool. We actually are going to see that right here on the POV. But like you get mines and you have to pop a certain amount. It's a huge burst healing requirement and a soak requirement while popping. This was really cool. You could have done this like a bunch of different ways. Like you could have like popped 2 at a time and like you could basically just like make the soaks as hard or easy as you wanted. And that was just like super fun. Really good design. But the jails were just... how you could do these in PTR was you could cleave through basically anything. If you were a melee and you're on my mouse right here and you were to cast Spinning Crane Kick, Shockwave, Thrash, Arcane Explosion, just any AoE or whatever, it would hit from here. Ignite would easily cleave with no weird blink shit. Warlocks could cleave with their tier set with UA through the walls. Basically everything was able to be cleaved and you built your entire strat around doing that. Okay, well going into Mythic, they tried to make it so nothing could cleave. You have to go inside. And then, as you're seeing with this PV here, like how we got around that was doing some like clearly a bug thing with mages, to like get some ignites out. But like other than that, you basically couldn't do any cleave. So we had to stack porting classes. The only way to break these, as opposed to heroic, is with the ice shards, which having to wait for those would be horrible for boss damage / really hard to repeat. And the only other way you can do it, and I think maybe this was their intention, was to keep one of these mines that we popped before. So these mines that we're popping right here, you want to keep 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them, I guess, depending on how many jails you have. And then you want to keep them rooted. And then once you get into the jail phase, you unroot them at exactly the right time and you successfully kite them into the 3 jails to let people out. But like, you guys probably listening to that hopefully are coming to the conclusion of that's unbelievably fucking hard and like probably impossible to not die to. Like that's just the coordination requirement of that is just too hard. So
yeah,
like,
anytime, not to mention that would cause like swirlies behind the jails, which are almost impossible to catch whenever you have mines popping near walls.
yeah, and
Very
there'd
bad.
also be like half the raid in jails that you couldn't even heal the mine debuff off of. I mean, you're just dead. Like it's just impossible. So it ended up being that you just had to run port classes. This could have been their... I mean, I maybe this was their intention. Like, for the race world first, we'll require people to do this and then nerf it hopefully quickly after to, like, make it so it does the thing in Heroic where you no longer have this, like, comp requirement of specifically Windwalkers and Warlocks. I don't know. That's... That part, I think, takes a lot away from this. What are you guys doing? Do you guys just have the comp for it?
Yeah, we're playing triple mage and we're doing your ignite stuff.
But do you even
'Cause it
have
was-
enough?
it's-
Do you have enough demon hunters, windwalkers, and warlocks to like do the last phase jails?
Yeah, one small problem is they've nerfed Protection Warrior and Mistweaver DPS by a lot this week. So
Ooh, that
we have
makes
a
it
new
harder.
strategy that we are cooking up for that.
I mean, you
that
could just
might
do the
work,
echo
but-
strat. The echo strat. The echo strat that they did in progression. They send 9 DPS into the last jails, and we send 5. So if they nerf the
Yeah.
healer and warrior, the last phase damage check is no longer a thing. So you would just do the echo strat for safety and get them done as fast as possible. It's also easier to heal.
Yeah, and now you can get knocked out by the jailbreak, which doesn't really matter for the P1 jails, but
Wait, they did?
it'll help that last phase. Yeah, they nerfed it so that you can. That's the only nerf they did to the fight is if you get hit by the jailbreak, it's 40% less damage, and it also breaks the walls now.
Oh, I didn't see
So-
that. I was looking for that earlier. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it changes much in P1 because it is kind of bad. Like if you get knocked out early and then you're an eligible target for the frost boots, it's kind of bad
Correct.
to have that happen.
Yeah.
But for P2, it means that we can overload a little bit more in there and then just get knocked out rather than you don't even have to do like echo positioning to get out with the extra hot mess.
Yeah, you would just send in every DPS, get through as fast as possible. That would
Yeah.
also make it like less damage in there too. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I thought this was this was the only boss we killed that felt like it was a satisfying kill, and it took as long as it should have taken for a boss at this point in the raid. You know, we killed this boss. There was a damage burn at the end. The last phase was satisfying. The way the mechanics intermixed in the last phase was really fun and cool, right? Barring bugs. And that was, I don't know, like when it died, it was just like, okay, we didn't have to like super optimize damage, but like there was enough random bullshit where that was okay, I think. I don't know, just like doing the last jail super hard, getting through that, doing the finger guns breaking both of the all 4 of the shockers, and then like the burn at the end. I don't know, like this just felt like a satisfying. This was definitely a like nerd scream second to last boss kill, and I think a lot of people will feel that way. Like I think basically everyone's gonna be really happy when you kill Muggsy, and not like maybe, I mean, it depends on how long it took you, but like I doubt it's less relief or frustration. I don't know. I mean, you're on the boss now. You haven't killed it yet, but I'm interested more in like what your progression is. I saw you got to the last phase really fast. Like you.
Yeah, a lot of people are having this where you get like it's pretty easy to get a P2 pull fairly early in progression, I think, because you just have to. You can like push on the dirt phase still and get there and you get an extra 15 seconds, and then like obviously it's cursed, but you can still push to have the extra stack on the boss. We're having a lot of trouble with the 6 mine pop catch, the combination of like not accidentally popping a mine, catching all of the 18 little circles, and the healing requirement in that section
Okay.
is something that has been tough for us. That was last reset though. This reset, maybe it'll be better, although they nerfed a lot of our healers, but they buffed one of them. They buffed our Holy Paladin, so hang on.
You're playing with a Holy Paladin?
Oh yeah, we've been playing a Holy Paladin all tier.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. So P1. Okay. So I've thought about the mines a lot. So what are you doing when you're popping mines? Are you like, is someone calling 1 2 3 4 5 6 or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I am. I'm popping and calling and looking at health on the raid frames.
Okay. I have a suggestion. So I did that too, and I would like when we had like crazy big healing, I would like pop them faster so we could go through faster. I think by far the best thing you can do on Muggsy is and it'll make sense when I say all of it. It's no matter what, every single pull, do the countdowns exactly the same and never speed them up or slow them down based on healing. And there's a reason for that. So number 1, I found when we had like crazy good healing and I was popping them faster, we would wipe to soaks because people are you're literally creating the fight mechanic of soaking to look different, which is terrible for consistency. And also your healers are like not healing the same thing every time. But if you always, even if you're like falling behind, the thing is if you're falling behind on the set of 6, you're wiping anyway. So like just call them at the same cadence every single pull, find out what cadence works. And what that will do is it'll allow your disc priest, it'll allow your other healers to actually plan literally the disc priest will plan their penances around when they know it's going to happen because it's not changing every pull, and the soaks will be more consistent. So just figure out what time from 1 to 6 you want to have it end, and then just call them completely equidistantly in the middle, very consistently, and it'll make that so much fucking better rather than
Yeah,
ever
I mean
having
that
a
is
variable.
basically what we are doing. The only thing, like, I am slowing it down if we miss a catch or something, and trying to let us recover that way. But
Yeah, the thing is though, is you're just
I'm never
dead.
speeding it up. Yeah,
Like if you do that, you're just dead.
Yeah.
Which is it's like it's that hard of a mechanic. But also, I think now that you're farther in progression, I think you have every single person in the raid health pot on. It depends on when your disc is ramping, but you should use health pot and healthstone because I think not having healthstones in the last phase is difficult, but getting through that set of mines every single time will make you so much better at the last phase that you won't need them. That would be my solution. Literally hard assign health stones and health pots to whatever wave is the hardest for you to heal off.
yeah, we've changed a bunch of our healer stuff going into this week for it, so I think we're gonna try that first,
W.
and we're gonna Vantis this boss as well.
That's
even
the
though
move.
It is Wednesday.
Oh, Vantis will help as well. Yeah. Okay. W. Muggsy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it so far. It is.
Let's think
the
second. to
jail.
la-
So
think second to last
this boss has to lose points for how bad the jail's mechanic is, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
a
it can't
cool
be
boss,
S.
but it's very much held back by the fact that it's heavily dependent on a strategy that is pretty comp based and pretty fiddly as well, of like getting out of the jails quickly. They've fixed it a little bit with making the jailbreak work like it does in Heroic, but it still doesn't fix the fundamental problem because then you can still get the frost boots afterwards. So that and like cringy line of sight stuff with it, and the smoke bomb thing and the ignite stuff working the way that it does, all of that to me hurts this boss quite a lot. So I don't know. I definitely can't put it in an S.
Yeah, it can't be an S. Also, let's just think about it to like previous second to last bosses, right? Like I think Tendril's a better boss. I think Silken Court's. Man, it's hard to compare Silken Court to anything. It's just such a different boss than every other boss. But like I'd say Muggsy's probably better than Silken Court.
Yeah, I would say it's better than Silken Court for sure.
And then I'm like going back in time. At Muggsy's better than Echo Neltharion, but that was also famously very flawed. Way better than Broodkeeper. Rygalon, they're trying to do two. Like Rygalon's infinitely more simple than this. Rygalon's also a fantastic boss, right? Like Rygalon's a turbo S tier fight, but man, I think Muggsy is S with better jails and no last phase bug. I think it can only potentially be A because like also that bug still exists. The fact that
Yeah. Oh my god, the mind bug. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
the fact that the mind bug still exists is insane. Although I will
Yeah,
say
like-
I contradicted myself a bit. I don't know if you were on the broadcast for TL, but like basically I was like they should fix the bug after we killed Muggsy. And I'm really glad they didn't because like alternate
Yeah.
history, we deal with the bug all night and then Echo doesn't would just be so bullshit. I don't know. But at the same time, they probably should just fix all bugs. But I definitely like contradicted myself because I was like, they should just fix all bugs, even if we already killed it. And then I actually afterwards don't feel that way at all. That would have really fucked us and been bad. Okay. I think A still. I don't think B. I don't think the bug in jails take it to B. It is a genuinely pretty fucking cool boss. When was the last time they did a like two sides of the room or two boss phases? Is there a boss really like this?
Kurog Grim Totem.
Yeah, Kurog, if Kurog had 4 heads instead of 2, like it is I mean, yeah, Kurog is the only real comparison. Okay. Are you
Yeah, I mean,
are you
this
okay
is
with
a
A?
very it's well executed. Although I will say they haven't yet figured out how to do one of these bosses where you like move it based on the boss doing a certain spell queue, and then you move it at different spots in the spell queue to like adjust whether it's doing the Mug ult or the Z ult or whatever. They just always do this thing where it's like you move it at max energy or right before, because then it like that's always the best way to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kurog had the potential to be one of those fights where you moved it like during its spell queue, so it would do the lightning ult or whatever instead of the earth one and those kind of things. But yeah, they still haven't figured out how to actually like design that fight.
Yeah. Okay. Time for Big Galley.
Okay.
You have not done Galley yet, but you have watched it a fair amount.
Yeah, we've done a lot of prep for it as well.
I kind of want to hear your thoughts about Galley. I have some thoughts, but also like It's a boss we won on. It's also a boss that I'm going to rank higher than literally anyone else because this boss was fucking insanely fun for me and for us because we got to do a boss without a dungeon journal and fully figure it out. And that was, regardless of how long that took, we just had an extremely positive, really fucking fun experience on Gallywix. So I would need to, you know, mix my ranking with whatever yours is going to be. But like, hopefully most people can understand that like we just objectively had a different experience with this boss than anyone else. And one other thing before passing it to you is this boss very similar to One Arm Bandit. People kind of got baited by Race World first pull counts too. And I think there's also something else to mention where like there's so many different people that'll rank things for different reasons. A Race World first guild might rank a boss totally differently than someone in the first month or at the end of the second month or late cutting edge. And there's also a Race to World first viewer that doesn't play the game that will rank a boss based on their viewing experience in the race. And that would differ totally from someone who at any point actually killed it themselves, you know? So like there's so many different perspectives that would widely vary. And then also there's just the tuning of it, right? And everything involved with that. But specifically pull count related, we did this in 100, having to fully figure out the fight. I feel very happy with our pull count on this. I feel like we turbo smurfed this boss. I think we fucking own this fight. Echo does it with full information and does it in sub 50 pulls, 49 pulls. And then I think everyone was just like, wow, this is like the easiest 10 boss ever. The kills after Echo are all, except for recently, are all like 100 plus, right? Even with full information, which for an end boss, absolutely still too easy. But also way different than a lot of people thinking people are just going to come in and kill this boss in 30 pulls for everyone, right? So you've done a lot of prep for this boss. Give me your Gallywix thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty fun boss to play. The mechanics seem like they're going to be kind of enjoyable to do. It doesn't seem like there's any overlaps that are going to require you to do it 20 times to actually be able to have everybody in the raid know how the hell to handle it, right? Like, you think about Ansurek P3, and it's like, oh my god, you have to do web blades into portal bait, into web blades, into take portal with essence, into drop essence in the right locations while spreading and leaving that spot for all the essence droppers to go. And like, you think about doing all that in the span of 15 seconds on Mythic Ansurek, that is like a crazy level of work and like skill that you'll need to build to handle that mechanical overlap. And Gallywix probably has at best like a few spots where there's two things kind of close to each other in the spell queue, right? But like otherwise you're kind of just doing each mechanic and then
that's in P2 mostly. P1 is like
the next one.
I would say P1 is like feels like a mythic phase.
Yeah. P1 feels like a mythic P1, right? Where it's like a lot of stuff is happening, but you still prog it pretty fast, and by virtue of it being a P1 as well, like you can just dump 50 pulls into P1 in a couple of hours, right? And then you got it figured out, and then the rest of the fight is very much like a slow-paced, understandable, not particularly punishing fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be pretty fun for a lot of people to prog. Like, I think it's going to be a pretty enjoyable experience. I think that with the way the raid stands currently, it's hard to have a guild that is capable of killing Muggsy that is not going to have a pretty easy time with Gallywix, right? Like, you said 100 pulls, right? And it's still a lot of pulls, right? But, like, a lot of that is wipes in the first minute of the fight to learning it, right? Like, those first 50 pulls are going to be really fast if that is what you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it will be, you know, pretty good but short, like an abridged progression experience because the fight's just not that punishing. So I'm reminded of definitely fights like Sarkareth but I feel like this is even going to be a little bit less like intense than Sarkareth was, because Sarkareth you could kill pretty quick once you figured it out, but a lot of that was just like it was a really short fight, and there was a lot of spots where you could there was a minute that was easy, and then you'd never wipe to that minute, and then now you're all of a sudden you're on minute 7 of the fight, you're progressing, and the boss is just going to die pretty quick from there.
Yeah.
And I think Gallywix is just like, it seems like it is a very comprehensible, you know, fight to understand, to execute. And I think it would probably have been the best 6th boss of all time if they'd put it there.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. Well, I still think there's like a lot of things that just like weren't punishing enough. But like also like Sarkareth,
Right.
I think Sarkareth's a really good comparison. I think if Sarkareth was as long as this boss was, like 9.5, that would have been like I think pretty similar. I think it's just the last phase. Like the last phase, just everything happens like 5 seconds apart. There's no like line. There's one lineup in each phase, right? It's like the soak plus the blaze dodge, which is like kind of difficult. P1, they at least try to do a couple things to you, right? Like I was just showing this lineup, which is like, I mean, this took us a decent amount of progression. It's the like you're spawning the canisters. You have to bait the frontal completely away from them, and then you have to get into them in time. This is very difficult. Like this is like something you'll wipe to a decent amount. But then like the damage, I don't know. You could have 3-healed this boss. We could have optimized so much damage. Like you could have dropped so much healing. Just basically every mechanic seemed like it just could have done like 30% more damage and been a fair mythic end boss. Like it was a clear like numbers error or something. But it is like a fun boss to do. Like well, I mean, it's hard to tell. We've only done it the one time, right? But I doubt people are. Also, there's another question. After so many guilds, how many guilds in the world do you think look forward to a 300 plus pull end boss?
Not many. The ones that do are probably in the world like top, I don't know, 30, 50, something like that.
You think even a world 30, world 20 guild would rather have a 300 plus pull end boss than a really nice 150?
I mean, a nice 150 is probably well, okay, a nice 150 versus a nice 300. You probably got a split opinion in the world top 30.
Like here's my point.
Some guilds would prefer both.
I think Gallywix for the Race to World first. I mean, you could even see in our kill screams, if you can call them that. For the Race to World first, this is a huge letdown. It's like, what's happening here? Like we didn't even get to do the thing. We spent months preparing for this. What's going on right now, right? You could see that in our reactions. That is how anyone involved with the race feels about Gallywix. Just wasn't hard enough. Even though we certainly had way more fun because we got to at least figure it out. But like, I wonder at what point are people like, maybe this is still too easy, but are like happier with a 100 pull with video kill, which is what a lot of guilds have done so far in Gallywix, the majority, versus 300, even in the world top 10, past the like couple of world first guilds. I just find that argument to be easy, or to be interesting at least.
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting because presumably Muggsy is going to catch some more nerfs, and then at some point that it may start being true that like, okay, if a guild can kill Muggsy, because right now if you can kill Muggsy, you can kill Gallywix by a lot, right?
Wasn't that
but
kind
if
of
that
true
stops being
last year
true-
with Silken Court? Like it wasn't
No,
true
no way.
early. Dude, at the end of
Oh yeah,
progression,
late maybe.
Yeah, like late cutting edge. I think if you got past Silken Court, you were gonna kill Ansurek. Like Ansurek late cutting edge was a fucking joke. Early on, Ansurek was obviously insane, but like a Silken Court ended up being harder than Ansurek at the end.
Yeah, because right now Muggsy's way harder, and then I think Muggsy is probably going to get nerfed to be not as much harder than Gallywix, or maybe even about the same, in which case guilds might spend longer on Gallywix and actually enjoy it more if it's fun prog. Maybe less. Maybe the kind of guilds that would have that experience will then dislike Gallywix because they got there so fast compared to like if Muggsy catches another nerf, because there are a lot of guilds this tier that have just been picking up like you pick up the Styx kill right after the nerf, you pick up the Sprocket kill after the nerf, right? Like if Bandit catches a nerf next week and then Muggsy catches one in a week or two, this tier might have a lot of guilds that usually reach the end boss in 3 months, reaching it in a month and a half, which might mean that it actually isn't as easy for those guilds relative to what their usual end boss experience as it was for the Race to World First guilds.
Yeah.
So that could be an interesting, thing to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I loved doing this boss, but I'm also so disappointed. Like, so here, I'll just like go through the stuff I have in my head, and you can help bring me back to reality. Okay, so doing the same argument you would make with every other thing. S tier, the tuning was just not at the point where it could ever be an S tier end boss. It's just straight up doesn't matter. Like, I'm not even talking like Race to World First viewer. I want to watch guilds go head to head. The previous end boss was one of the hardest 2 bosses ever, worst case scenario, and it wasn't close at all, and there wasn't any 2 guilds pulling a boss low at the same time, right? So like, but the difficulty was just not there. There wasn't even watching one guild optimize and like be able to try to kill a boss, and that just matters so much. As far as doing the actual fight, I think the actual fight is pretty fun to play, and P1 is like really, really good. But I don't know, like think about it. We ranked Fyrak in S tier, 300 pull boss. We ranked Tindril in S tier, 300 pull boss. We ranked Ansurek. I don't even remember where we ranked Ansurek, but like 300 pull boss. So clearly, like end bosses being 300, 400 pulls is never a negative thing, right?
It's not a disqualifying thing, at least. Yeah.
Well, at least for us, we're doing the tier list, and we're people who rated at a top level. So, you know, if you do a tier list of people who are like, you know, this boss is way too hard for me at World 200 or whatever, they would probably not rank maybe some of those bosses in S tier, right? So it's possible who's doing that, but I think it has to be out of S. I think even an end boss, God, it's so weird. Like if this boss was harder, it's an S tier, but it just wasn't hard enough. So then you have to dock it points because of its difficulty, and how many points do you do that by?
Yeah, I don't want to take too many points off of it, because I think the most important thing is, like, is this a fun boss to play, right? And whether it's 100, 200, 300 pulls, it being a fun 100, 200, or 300 is much more important than that in the scheme of things. But I agree that it can't be S. Like, you can't have an S tier end boss that is easier than several of the other bosses were in the raid. Even if those end up getting nerfed to end up being now easier than it, it's still
Okay.
like, that's just
I have a
not
thought.
right.
What about what did we rank Sarkareth?
I think we gave it an A or something.
Dude, I think if you're doing this boss no video, this boss and Sarkareth's difficulty are almost identical. And,
I bet if you're doing this boss no video, it's way harder, right? Like,
well, no. I mean, their pull count. We killed it, and I thought we played really well in 100, and I think Sark was like 113. This feels extremely similar from us to Sark. And if like Echo, for example, is doing Sarkareth full video, like kill video from the beginning, I don't know how, like, bosses are not always the same level of like, you have a kill video, now you kill it infinitely faster. There's like different levels of execution. The execution check on this one isn't that high. But like, I don't know, Sarkareth got ranked in A. But like, again, who is going to have the perspective of killing the boss and figuring it out and doing it 100 pulls? There's exactly one guild, and it's me. That's probably why I rank this boss higher, because it was objectively more fun for me than it was for everyone else. Not most end bosses are not like that at all. So we could stick it in B. I would rank it certainly higher, but I think that perspective is just only ever purely going to be mine.
yeah, I mean, I do think this is going to be a boss that most people are going to feel good when they kill, although there are going to be some people that are like left wanting more, which is a bad feeling, but it's not that bad of a feeling. Like, it's much better than the alternative. Much better than the reverse, right? Where you kill a boss after you and you wish it had taken a lot less time, right? So I don't know. I mean, I'd be fine with A for this as well.
Nah.
Like, for the Race World first, it's like an F, right?
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, well,
that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to just leave it in B instead of A, just because I don't want to deal with weird YouTube commenters. You know what I mean?
If that works for doing that, then I'm all for it. But I suspect it's not going to help. Well, maybe it's going to help, but it's not going to remove the problem.
I mean, there's just going to be a decent amount of like Race to World First only fans. Don't play the game, just watch it. Specifically, Echo fans.
Yeah.
And they're just going to be like, "Fuck, I didn't get my no." Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my inclination, I guess, I think B is appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, fuck it. Let's leave it B. Does it get any extra? I was about to say, we're already, I think, giving it points for the aesthetics and everything, because that's obviously sick. Also, just
it's a cool, like, the design of it's cool.
One other thing about
this boss, a little bit again
boss,
of like unrealized potential. Like the room is sick, the coils are sick, a lot of the mechanics are sick. There's ways they could have been sicker, and they don't do any of them, which is kind of sad.
Dude, by far the sickest part of this boss is that it was just not in the Dungeon Journal. Like, just straight up.
Yeah, which is cool.
That's sick.
But also irrelevant for almost anybody except for you.
Yeah. Okay, so this, like, the last phase, I feel like deserves a lot of flame. Like, P2, you have all this room to deal with everything. But, like, how in the last phase are these mechanics not buffed? Why doesn't he go into fucking overdrive? Why isn't the suppression, like twice as big, you know? Like, if you have this much room, this much is cut off, You could easily make it so that is like almost impossible to play.
I mean, fundamentally, P3 is just P2 with half the space.
But that's not hard
But the
enough.
fact that you have practiced the phase is worth more than losing the space, which means the mechanics just aren't as, like, they're not as space constraining as they needed to be for that to be enough.
So here's how big the suppression is, I think, literally. Like, this is how big suppression's circle is. This is so easy, right? You can just repeat the same positioning. What if the boss goes into, like, super crazy mode where now all of the mechanics are harder? Okay, suppression's this big. So now you don't even tank him in the same spot. You want to, like, tank him here so you have more space to play the rest of the phase. What if he adds a third soak in this phase? What if the soaks are wider? What if he you know, the frontal, there's like 2 frontals, or it's much wider and actually requires you to bait it. You could have even had like P2 be kind of easy, like a learner phase almost, kind of similar to Sark P2. And then the last phase is like you have less room and it's crazy. Because then like the damage check becomes less of a thing. It's like, can you even possibly do this? So I think I think P1 was actually a pretty good Mythic phase. P2 was like not great, but I think the most offensive thing they did with Gallywix was P3. Because like the idea that in Mythic end boss is P3 is just P2 with half the space is just simply, that has never been hard enough. You can find any boss in history that's not okay. So I don't know. Weird. Not a fan. I'm okay with B.
Yeah.
B is good.
All right.
P3 is too offensive. All right.
Yeah.
Overall rate. So this will do. I don't know if there's even a tier maker for this, but WoW, an updated WoW raid tier list, or maybe recent, just like a recent WoW raid, World of Warcraft raid. WoW raid. Does this include? No, this looks like it's only through Shadowlands. I'm trying to like think of where we would put. Okay, you know what? I don't think we're gonna find a tier maker for this. I'm just going to do a notepad. So, like, what raids, in your opinion, like historically are S tier? Just like off the top of your head.
Nighthold, Castle Nathria. I don't know, maybe that's the S tier?
I would throw in Blackrock Foundry.
Sure, yeah, I'm not that old.
Okay, so let's just do this post Legion. How about that? Post Legion. Post Legion, sure. Okay, so S, you have Nighthold, Castle Nathria. Sorry, not post Legion. That's literally Legion. So Legion and then onwards. Okay. Any other competitors for let's just go down to A. So A, I have like Antorus.
Aberrus.
Ooh, interesting. I think that might be kind of controversial because of like Skarn and Neltharion.
True, yeah, maybe
I would probably put that a little lower, even personally. We won that raid. Amirdrasil, maybe? What do you think?
Yeah, I like Amirdrasil.
Okay, Amirdrasil. We're only gonna do like probably to B tier and just like.
We should do Aberrus just because it starts with an A, and then it's a good bit that we're doing here.
Let me just actually go through. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is not like a definitive, like the fucking definitive tier list. We could do that some other time. Just like I just want to like get some things out there. I'm just gonna like name some raids. So post Legion. So, Tomb of Sargeras, top of your head.
B.
Okay. Antorus, we have an A. Oldir.
B.
Battle of Azarlor.
C.
Okay. Eternal Palace.
D.
I would agree with that. Nyalotha.
A.
Okay, and then we're on to Shadowlands, right? So we already ranked Castle Nathria. Sanctum of Domination.
C. Maybe that should be D.
Okay.
I don't know.
Moving it down.
Your choice.
W. It had Painsmith And
It did.
Sylvanas was a good boss in the first three.
It had Kel'Thuzad and Fate Scribe.
The first like 5 bosses were great, and then like the last 4 were all bad except for Sylvanas. Okay. Cool. Whatever. Sanctum. Sepulcher.
If I say anything other than C or D, they'll get mad.
But just speak your truth, man. Who cares?
B.
Okay. Sepulcher. I think that's how you spell that. Who knows? Vault of the Incarnates.
C.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Aberys, you put up here. Did we move Aberys down to B? Is that what you want to do? You want to put
Yeah,
an A?
B's fine.
Somehow I muted my stream during that. Oh, it's because of the keybind for. How long was it muted? Oh, probably not very long. All right, fixed it though. All right, cool. So, looking at all this, I'll try to spread it out a little bit, make it a little bigger. Where do we think Liberation of Undermine? Now, keep in mind, we're doing this with less information. Usually you have like a more clear picture of how good a raid is many years later, usually, or certainly later in the patch, because a lot of people haven't experienced it. But Dratnos, where's your thought for Liberation of Undermine?
I'm thinking A. Maybe it should be B.
I think it's disqualified from S because
Certainly.
the last boss just... I think if Gallywix ended up being like an Astro banger, I think it actually could have ended up being S tier, but that just simply
agree.
didn't happen. I think it's probably just can't be D from theme alone.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's just a few like really good first boss, really good Sprocketmonger, really good Mugsy. I feel like it's above C. It's B or A. Styx is the biggest offense in the race, right? Or in the raid?
Yeah, Styx, One-Armed Bandit.
I mean, this raid is better than Old Ear, man. like it just is.
It's possible that Old Ear should be C, maybe. given
Yeah,
the
I
list
think
on there.
maybe Old Ear goes bad. I'm just like the reason why we listed all of these in general wasn't to like make content.
Yeah,
It was
just to
like,
get an idea.
It was purely just to like get like a general picture here. Like, is this raid as good as Nyalotha? Like, what did Nyalotha have going for it? It had like N'Zoth was a pretty good end boss. Raden was kind of cool. Il'gynoth, if you did the Dispel strat, was kind of cool. But like, I don't know, there's a lot of mid in Nyalotha. Amir Drasil, very polarizing based on what kind of a guild you were. But, you know, 2 really, really hard, really good bosses at the end. And Taurus, kind of just a lot of cool fights, even though they were easy. And then Argus was really cool. But like, what's true about all of the S and A's? They kind of all had like pretty banger end bosses. you
Yeah,
know?
and this does not.
And this
as
just doesn't.
much.
Yeah, like now there's banger end bosses in all of B too, but like I feel like
Yeah.
the rest of the raid was probably better than a lot of these things.
Yeah, it has a better raid and a worse end boss than most of those, I think.
Yeah, somewhere in B tier probably. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
talking it down from A makes sense. Now for a Racer
It's a
World,
shame.
first, like how fun it is of a race to watch, that's not what we're ranking here. That, and I know for a lot of you that are typing in chat, that's actually all you care about. You don't play the game and you just watch the race. It was a terrible race, right? Like there was infinite
Yeah.
splits. There was really no like close tense moment on any boss really for either guild, or at least being there at the same time. That was also not true last raid. But last raid didn't have any splits during Mythic, right? So I think the splits it was like a very unwatchable race, but we're not ranking that. We're ranking the raid. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, cool. W. All right, that was some good content.
Dude, I haven't told them yet about what our content's going to be for one of the upcoming pods. But that
Ooh,
shit's
yeah, that
gonna,
one's gonna be good.
that shit's gonna be fucking good. In fact, I kind of want to like. Are we recording that today?
I got raided in a couple hours here,
So
so
definitely not. Okay, well, I think we should like meet and like come up with the different archetypes
Like
and then
prep it?
Yeah, like you have to
Yeah.
prep it. And I think even just the process of prepping it will be really interesting.
yeah. And then we release the prep session as Patreon bonus content.
Ooh, wait. Oh, could be. Actually, that sounds like a really good idea because there'll probably be some super spicy ones we talk about in there that don't make it on the list. Okay, W. All right, thanks, Rat. See you later.
Yep.
Wait, aren't
Yeah.
you like coming down here soon? I know we
GG.
can't talk about for why, but
Maybe, you know, it's a good time of year.
okay. W. All right. I'll see you
W.
later. Goodbye. Dude, my dogs totally think it's time to get up. All right, cool. Rank the bosses. Dude, I feel so robbed on Galley, man. Dude, if Gallywix was like a harder, just a simply harder, like mythic tuned version of the boss that it was, and it had no dungeon journal, it would have just been so fucking insane. Like harder, like the harder P3 that I just described in raid plan, plus like everything is just in general more punishing. Like a 250-ish pull version of that fight would have been just an all-time great. It's so sad. What is it? I honestly think it'll be fine for most cutting edge guilds. Yeah, so we weren't trying to rank things for everyone. We were ranking things for us. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of sentiment out there. I think that was actually kind of the main, like, everyone was really mad at what Preach was saying, is that he was saying like, it's embarrassing for the devs to do this. But for a lot of like non-Race to World First heads, like people who don't purely just watch the Race to World First, who are involved, which is the majority of WoW raiders, right? They're like, hey man, I know the boss wasn't super hard for the race, but like, I'm kind of looking forward to not having an end boss be 400 bulls. Now, they probably also don't want it to be 50, but there's a lot of people that would rather it be closer to 50 than 400. So I think the cutting edge community of WoW is going to really like this raid. Max, let the chat do Raiders tier list. Huh? What do you mean? Like tier list the Raiders in my guild? That is a terrible idea for so many reasons. But one of the main ones being, you guys have no idea how good anyone is. You just like your favorite streamers or the people with the most viewers or like the names you've heard of. You have literally no fucking clue how good anyone in this guild is unless you've played with them. It would be it's extremely inaccurate. It would just be names you've heard spoken more at the top and then names you don't know as much at the bottom. That's what it would be. Unless you want me to rank them, and I would never do that. Like, the reality is they would just all be an S. And even if you were to separate them by the smallest differences, it would be like 3 S tiers with some people slightly ahead. But I couldn't even tell you who the best player in our guild is. There's probably probably 6 to 8 people in this guild that people who actually know how good people are in this guild, so people in this guild would not be able to tell you which one they think is better. They're like literally as good as you could possibly be at the game. Max, I think he meant get the raid team together and have them rate the best raid. Oh yeah, I mean that can be what we were doing here. This is good content just in general, right? But like the point of this video wasn't to do this. This was just simply to like try to get a quick gauge of where Liberation of Undermine stood by putting other things down, not really to make an objective list and really talk about it. It was, I mean, I literally just asked Dratnos to rank them and just first thing that popped in his head. Max, do you think if they added 10-man Mythic that the cutting edge scene would grow? I mean, it would grow it by at least double because all the 20-man teams would become 10-man teams. Yeah, I mean, more people would interact with Mythic in 10-man versus 20-man because it's easier to find 10 people that are around the same skill level. I think 10-man is an interesting thought in WoW. I definitely think 20 is the best. Like, I think going down from 20 would be a bad idea. Like, if you were to make a new game trying to be WoW right now, the group size is closer to 8 or 10 than it is to 20. But WoW isn't a new game. It's been out for a very long time, and 20... Having this many specs in the game in less than 20 would be, like, it'd be really hard to pull that off and have it actually be better content. But there is something to be said about finding 10, it being just so much easier to vibe with 9 other people than 19.
"95% of players shouldn't even step into Mythic. Mythic gear equals private jet IRL." What? Wait, I don't even know what point you're trying to make. That's fine. I'm just gonna move on. Max, Donkey, Gary, or Peter Grifton? Who had the best name for their mains? Bro, Peter Grifton is by far the best name of whoever's people ended up being their mains. Although Donkey Gary does have a special place in my heart because like 10 pulls before we killed Halandris, we wiped in P1 because Shaq said he DC'd, and then he just logged back in. It did a forced name change, and he logged back in with the name Donkey Gary. He just changed his character's name to Donkey Gary mid Halandris progression for no reason. And it wiped us. And it fucked every weak aura we had too. We had to yeah, it was great. And then he just said he couldn't help it. It just procced. Okay. We didn't record any of us, like we were off stream and stuff for like the post race like celebration and shit. But at one point there was like at least 15 people in my room during the race, like the one with the couch in the back. And Shaq was in there playing a like children's piano, like basically like a really small xylophone with like rainbow keys. And he goes, "Everyone, when I play this, everyone's going to drink." So they went and all got bowls of Guinness. For some reason, they poured out Guinness into small bowls. And they all did Guinness bowl shots while Shaq played a children's xylophone. It was time. We probably had like almost 20 people in that room hanging out until like 6 a.m. Damn, I don't know if I like this Discord update. Are you about to get off? I think so. Oh, dude, I've been playing the new Assassin's Creed last couple of days. It's actually pretty good. It's definitely not... Like, I think the closest thing you could compare it to is, like, Ghost of Tsushima. Like, same vibe, very similar combat. And I think Ghost of Tsushima is, like, a little better. But, like, if you liked Ghost of Tsushima, you should definitely play this game. It's just basically, like, you get to play Ghost of Tsushima again. Fucking owns. It's actually really good. I'm a pretty big Assassin's Creed fan. I've played like, I really liked Odyssey, Didn't really like Valhalla. Liked Mirage, or Origins. I forget whichever one it was. Whatever the first one it is when they made them RPGs, but I really liked them. What is it? Ghosts of Tsushima shits on AC Shadows. Yeah, Ghosts of Tsushima is better than Assassin's Creed Shadows, But if you like Ghost of Tsushima, it's just straight up worth a playthrough. It's good. Oh, we're barking. But yeah, it was really fun. Black Flag, yeah, I do like the older Assassin's Creeds too. Black Flag was really fun. Like I think the newer ones, like especially since Origins and Odyssey, are just like very RPG, and I do enjoy those more. But it's definitely hard worth it. Also, I don't know if you guys saw, but like the actual Assassin's Creed Twitter page absolutely windmill dunked the grifters. Holy shit! Where is this? If you, I'm sure you guys have seen this, but it's like fucking legendary. I don't give a shit about no analytics, dog. All right. Where is it? I don't think I retweeted. Did I retweet it? Bro, check this shit out. Dude, Elon hits a fucking, I don't know, just a bunch of grifters. This guy's a huge grifter. Obviously, Elon. This guy's a fraud. Whatever. Sellout would be more accurate, bro. Assassin's Creed hits him with the most legendary ratio. Is that what the guy playing your Path of Exile 2 account told you? Oh my god. Jesus, bro. This ratio is absolutely diabolical, man. Dude, I actually think one of Elon's biggest self-owns was the like clearly having someone play his account thing and then lying about it, because I actually think Elon had a lot of sympathy with like incel gamers, like really not socially adjusted gamers. I think were like a pretty decent part of Elon's fan base, and like that was just something he did that just told all of these people that actually agreed with him that he was a fraud, right? And like it was so obvious too. That was insane self-owned by him. But then another grifter, this Grums idiot, hits the fucking links some article. Fucking beta links an article. Our game is out. I don't even know what the fuck that means. I don't know anything about this guy, but get fucking shit on. You know what I mean? Oh, also, did you guys see? I actually watched an episode of the Yard recently. And I've never actually listened to that podcast. It's really popular. The podcast episode that I listened to is really fucking good. I understand why it's popular. It's really good. But they did one recently where they ranked every type of gamer, and they were basically arguing whether they were actually a net plus to the gaming community, net minus, or jail, death penalty, and gaming legend. And you guys should listen to this podcast. It's a sick podcast. We're thinking about doing some stuff like this for WoW as well, which would be really fun. But you can see they have like the death penalty is the RuneScape schizo, the blockchain gamer, sports only anime racist, and the Asmongold DEI foot soldier. And I never thought of phrasing it that way, but that like closely, that so closely lines up with that tweet I made last week about the arguing about DEI in video games or whatever. Anime racists, dude. They made a really good point about the anime racists when they talked about this on the podcast. But like, how come so many of the racists love anime? Like, why specifically anime? It does raise an interesting question, right? Like, if you see some gamer in some Discord ripping some crazy shit, anime avatar like 95% of the time, you know? Like, what it is about, what is the correlation there, you know? Dude, and so true up here, dude. The always bad at games but always happy to play them guy. Do you guys have any friends like this? This is like, they're the most chill people of all time. They're always an insane vibe. What are some other interesting? What is Michael Transaction? Michael Transaction just, and I only know this because I listened to the podcast episode, but Michael Transaction is just someone who will basically buy any microtransaction on any video game right? So like if you're playing an Ubisoft game and you see some pop up for some weapon or something, you're just gonna buy it, right? And I think that their reasoning for putting them in net positive, and it was kind of a it was kind of hard to decide where they should go, because the reason that free to play games exist basically is because these people exist and fund those games. But also, microtransactions existing also is the reason why so many of those games have that model, which is really annoying. So it's like, which one's worse? And they ended up with like it being net positive. Why is a Sims girl a gaming legend? Bro, have you ever met like a girl and she's like, what games do you play? And she's like, I play The Sims. Yo, you want to like marry that girl. That's like the thought. They're just always chill. They're having a blast. They're not bad people. They objectively help the gaming community, and they're just kind of doing their own thing, and they're sweet. Sims girls are great. Opposite in your experience? They all basically made the same argument on the podcast. But I mean, yeah, you could have had the opposite experience. Dude, my ex-girlfriend was a Sims girl. She did the like baby challenge. I forget exactly what it is, but you try to have like I think 50 babies with 50 different dudes or something like that. There's like all kinds of crazy fucking challenges they do. What's the podcast called again? It's called The Yard. No way. And what did she do in The Sims? Oh no, that's in The Sims, obviously. The brood mother run. Yeah. Dude, the achievement hunter in Gaming Legend is actually so true too, because they're just people that are, you know, they're just like 100%ing every game. Like obviously there's the achievement hunter in WoW, but like this is probably just the person that you see posting that they're 100%ing every game they play. They just fucking love gaming, dude. It's a long podcast too. It's like 3 hours, but I found all of it to be pretty interesting. Where's the WoW player in that tier list? They didn't mention that. It would probably be the closest to like League Rotter, like the person that only plays WoW. I mean, so there are a lot of Smash players on the podcast. They like mostly come from the Smash community. And I can tell you from experience that the Smash community and the WoW community have almost nothing in common. They're like two almost completely different universes of gaming. So maybe that's why. But yeah, MMO player probably. I think there is like there's RuneScape Schizo. That's like kind of MMO. Man, it's definitely an MMO. The multiplayer? Now, the multiplayer is the person who only plays multiplayer games and like actually cannot or does not play single player experiences ever. Like they basically play games just to play the game better than someone else that is playing the game. What is it? As someone whose playtime is almost exclusively split between WoW and Smash, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm not saying those people don't exist. I mean, I've hung out with a few of these dudes IRL. I have Hugo Hugs, Samus player, is like one of my good friends. So like at his birthday, there's always just hella Smash people there, bro. If you start talking about World of Warcraft around these people, not a single one of them will know what you're talking about. Like that's not true with League players. I hang out with a lot of League players or former pro League players, and I have had Double Lift. First time I talked to him, talked about WoW for like fucking 30 minutes. He loves WoW. Pobelter, Sneaky, Meteos, fucking League players and WoW go hand in hand, bro. Shroud, former FPS player, him and all of his friends play the shit out of WoW. But like Smash players, I mean, like literally none of them have played WoW ever. Not like never. It is a completely separate game. Where are you going? I'm being evasive, kid. It's like fighting games. I think it's just the fighter game genre. They just tend to stay in that bubble. Yeah. Do you guys know where you guys fit? Like which one of a gamer, which gamer are you guys? I guess you haven't heard them all described. Your Sims girl, a couple Sims, shout out the Sims girls. Achievement Hunter? Yeah, I think there's a lot of people in WoW that would describe themselves in Achievement. Actually, I think Achievement Hunter is most WoW players. Not because most WoW players farm achievements, but the process of farming mounts, achievements, transmogs, that's just straight up most WoW players. That is what an Achievement Hunter is. Those are the people that would 100% games they play. Exact same category of gamer. I'm definitely the GOAT silent. Yeah, so the reason this is here is like obviously the GOAT silent is like the person that plays every game and they're just the absolute GOAT at it, and they are just like always, they never say shit. They're just like a fucking beast. Right? The GOAT evil is like the person who is the GOAT but has like a very not insufferable personality, but like, you know, they're the villain. These people are all from fighting games. So like some examples of that in fighting games would be like Leffen, or I think maybe Hungrybox is actually like a villain to a lot of people. Like that's the idea, right? There's not a lot of people like that in WoW. That's a fighting game, or like maybe a multiplayer PvP game, tournament competing like specific thing. But like the reason they're in gaming legend is like those people have to exist, you know, just like wrestling needs heels. Is this what the next Potty C subject will be? We're thinking about doing something close to this, but having it be more WoW related. Like I think great content would be like maybe doing this, but for like WoW player personalities, or for like raid leaders. Like I could probably make 15 different raid leader archetypes that you could rank for like a separate thing. I think that would be really fun. There's also other things you can do too. All right, anyways, that was pretty fun. I'm going to blow up. See you guys later.
Oh, the dogs know. They just know. Oh, and Reptar, talk to him. Oh, shit, Reptar. Jeez. Reptar is so ready to go.